Welcome to Films from the Phantom Zone, your podcast about failed and forgotten comic book movies, where we would usually watch a forgotten superhero movie and decide, does it belong in the Phantom Zone to be forgotten for forever, or out and about for everyone to rewatch and remember fondly. My name's Arnaldo, I'm your host, I'm joined by
Berto.
And I said usually because we're not watching a movie today and talking about it, we're talking about a movie we watched out in theaters.
Yeah, it's another review episode.
Yes. Berto?
The Batman.
You do the movie. So
I do the movie title. Oh, yeah. For The Batman.
There you go. Berto's got a couple jobs around here, so. Yeah, so this is a review. What was the last review we did? Eternals? No, Spider-Man.
No Way Home. Duh.
I'm an idiot. So this is how we do reviews. Basically, we're going to talk a little bit about background, but then we're going to get into our non-spoiler opinions, thoughts, review. Right? So for a very good chunk of this, we're not going to spoil the movie. So if you haven't seen it, that's okay. We're going to tell you straight up, we will now spoil the movie from here on in on the tail end of the episode when we get into spoilers.
That way, you know, if you hadn't seen it yet and you are planning on seeing it and you feel like you want to go in, you know, without knowing that information, you can just go ahead and back out now.
I think we're pretty good at like not spoiling. When we don't do spoilers, like I go back obviously and like edit these episodes and stuff, and
yeah.
I think we're pretty good at it.
Good.
I can't think of a single time where I think there was one time I was like, well, you know, it depends on what you think a spoiler is. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
If you don't want anything, then don't, whatever. By the time this comes out, this movie would have been out for like almost a week. So, but if you don't mind hearing other people's opinions,
yeah,
before going in, then yeah, just, you know, listen and then stop at the spoiler section.
Yeah.
And then come back. If you're here on Twitch, we're just going to tell you, and then you can leave if you want to leave. And if you don't care, you can hang out with us, whatever. We are live right now on Twitch. By the way, we record all these episodes on Twitch. So we will be talking with people in the chat as we go on. If you like this show, if you've listened to other episodes, and if you want to be a part of it, that's how you do it. You come join us on twitch.tv/filmsfrompz. Monday nights, 8 o'clock. When we're not recording an episode, then we're just hanging out playing a video game. We've been playing Arkham Asylum for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
In order to kind of like, you know, hype up
Get
for
in the Batman mood.
Batman
just
season.
In general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was fun. So like I might either continue playing that game or play City next.
Or Origins.
Or Origins. Or Night. Night's my favorite. Also, while we've been getting ready for Batman, we did 2 episodes Batman related. We did Catwoman from 2004 and Batman 1966. Those 2 episodes might be some of the most fun I think we've had on this podcast, honestly. Those are riots for completely different reasons.
Yes.
Catwoman's funny in a bad way, and Batman 66 is hilarious in a great way. Like
one's just so bad that it's funny, and the other's like, it's got that campiness going on with it. Yeah.
And is incredibly self-aware and hilarious. Both those episodes have different guests. Sable, my wife, was on one of them, and a good friend of ours, Chris, from the Assembly Required podcast, was on the other one. Check those episodes out. They're out. And there's plenty of more Batman, because last year we did the Tim Burton movies and the Joel Schumacher movies.
Yes.
So that's Batman from 1989 through Returns, Forever, and Batman and Robin. All that's available, so we have nothing but Batman content. Oh shit, I forgot. We also did a retrospective episode on Batman vs. Superman. And we did a legitimate episode on the theatrical cut of Justice League. And we did a review on Zack Snyder's Justice League.
We've talked about Batman quite a bit.
So we might have to put Batman to bed after this, even though there's we still have some more Batman stuff.
He can rest for a little bit.
He
deserves it.
He deserves it. Well, that's going to actually bring me to my next topic. But are you ready to get started?
Yes, let's go.
Let's talk about a little bit of background. And when I say that, I mean, I want to talk about how this movie came to be.
Oh, you.
Yeah.
You're going to go off on this.
We got to get in the time machine. We're going all the way back to 2012. Are you ready?
All right.
10 years ago. 10 years ago. It's been 10 years, by the way, since The Dark Knight Rises.
Time flies.
Time's
I remember.
What is it that you say? Time is a
son of a bitch.
Yes. Berto, what else happened in 2012? Can you tell me?
Joss Whedon directed the Avengers. The Joss Whedon directed Avengers movie came out.
Yeah. I don't know why you're bringing Joss Whedon into this.
Because
the Avengers.
He made a couple good things in his life.
Sure.
But fuck him.
You're such a fucking sympathizer for Firefly.
Yeah. Honestly, that's it.
Are you one of those
brown coats?
is that what they call themselves? Like, what are you doing to bring back Firefly? One of those people.
Yeah, Disney should do it now that they own it.
Anyway, so Marvel is, I don't know if you remember, Avengers was a big deal, mostly because they made billions of dollars in a team-up superhero movie, which had, as of that point, not happened yet, right? And everyone's looking at them going, maybe we should all do shared universes. And then, like, every movie studio scrambled to find their shared universe, and none of them worked, right? Meanwhile, DC's like, we just put our biggest fish, like the crown buck, we just put him to bed just now.
Yeah.
Like the same year. Like the timing couldn't have been more unfortunate, I think, for DC. So very next year is Man of Steel. It's 2013. Obviously, that movie was already in development. What happens that same summer that Man of Steel comes out is Comic-Con, right?
Right.
I don't know if you remember this. The Comic-Con, the announcement of Batman versus Superman.
I think I remember it.
So the way they did it, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to announce a sequel. Let's put the title up behind us, right? It's got the big Superman logo. And then like music starts playing.
Oh, I remember this.
And then like a silhouette opens up and you slowly see the Batman emblem behind Superman's emblem.
And the crowd goes wild.
They fucking lost their goddamn minds. And for good reason.
I remember there was a bunch of speculation too. It was like, oh, is Christian Bale coming back?
Right. But you should have known by the fact that there was no, the bats are different.
Yeah.
He had a very
specific
bat, yeah.
He had a very sharp, angular bat.
Oh, thank you, Caleb. Caleb in the chat says they read a line from the Dark Knight Returns comic and then showed the bat signal. I don't remember that part. I just remember the big, like, bat symbol. So thank you for remembering that. That's great.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago. Yeah, so everyone loses their goddamn minds because for a couple of reasons. One, like, yeah, we just put Batman to bed. But actually, fucking roll him back out because he's back. He's back, baby. And then obviously speculation runs rampant of, like, who's the next Batman gonna be? And it kind of feels like we're always, I feel like, in a perpetual cycle of who's the next Batman going to be? Like, I feel like people are already kind of like, all right, this movie's going to get like, in 10 years from now, who's the next Batman?
Well, Batman, has Batman been rebooted more than Spider-Man has? I believe he has.
Oh, by far. He had fucking 4 movies with 3 different actors in the 90s.
And like, questionable continuity.
Right, yeah. So they said, oh, this Batman's going to be older, jaded, kind of towards the end of his career, so he'll be kind of the more experienced opposite to Superman, who's just getting started, right?
Right.
And I thought that was a super interesting take. Josh Brolin was a big name. I think
I'm kind of glad that one didn't happen.
Yeah, then we got Thanos and Cable. And,
also, I like Ben Affleck, so
yeah, and then Ben Affleck, and then people were very divisive on
because
Ben Affleck.
People remember Daredevil,
but people are dumb because at this point in Ben Affleck's career, he was like at the height of his
his career at this point has turned around completely.
He's not making rom-coms anymore. He's writing and directing his own movies.
He's
and
doing
at this point,
Argo and
Gone Baby Gone, The Town, and Argo, which are all 3 incredible crime dramas, like fucking amazing movies. So when I heard this, I was like, this is excellent casting, I think. John Hamm, thank you. That was the name I was trying to think of.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, the promise is, here's Ben Affleck. He's going to do Batman versus Superman, which is obviously going to kick off into like Justice League movies. I don't know if they had straight up said it, but it was so... Actually, they did, because it was said, there was a fucking subtitle, which is
Dawn of Justice. Yeah.
That's obviously like, yeah, you're doing Justice League.
To what I think Philly said earlier, Avengers came out and DC hit the panic button.
I mean, yeah, and they started kind of going backwards, and that's just a different conversation, but I feel like they wanted to start with the teams already together and then do a bunch of solo flicks afterwards, because originally it was going to be BVS and Justice League, then Aquaman, then Flash, then Cyborg, then Green Lantern. Those movies, obviously some of those aren't happening and some already did. A Wonder Woman. Anyway, so BVS, Justice League, and then with the promise of a solo Batman movie. And at that point it's like, yeah, we just got 3 of those, but it's also like way in the future. Yeah. It was going to be after all these other movies that come out. So it's kind of like, sweet, like he's going to be the Nick Fury of this universe. He's going to be kind of like the guy putting the team together, kind of in a bunch of different movies. We knew we were going to probably see a lot of cameos. He had signed like a 10-picture deal, one of those big Marvel contracts.
Hopes were high.
They were very high. So that movie, The Batman, later on we find out that they were having Ben Affleck write and direct it also. in addition to obviously starring in it, probably also serving as producer. And it was going to be an original story set in Arkham with influences from Arkham Asylum, the game we've been playing, Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth, which is a comic book. It's really good. The artwork for that is kind of incredible. The whole comic, it looks like an oil painting. It's kind of crazy. And Nightfall, which is the
bat being broken.
Yeah. Batman, I Break You, when Bane breaks Batman's back. It was going to have Deathstroke orchestrating a breakout, appearances from Batgirl. It would explore the death of Robin that was set up in Batman vs. Superman.
That would have been cool to see.
There was a lot of teasing because this is a Batman that had already been around for 20 years. So It's like, what has he done and what has he not done? Like, who are the villains that we've seen and which villains haven't been made yet? You know what I mean?
I think I said in our BVS episode, like, it's a shame that, like, we only get, like, it's just alluded to what has happened. We don't actually see any of it. The only interaction we got between him and the Joker was
just now
in Justice League.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Right. We got a little bit of kind of world building in Suicide Squad because a lot of that movie is set in Gotham City, and it has a lot of Batman villains in it, like Deadshot, Harley Quinn, the Joker. Killer Croc.
Most of the Suicide Squad is made up
Batman
of Batman villains.
And like one Flash villain.
Captain Boomerang.
Yeah.
Who I actually really liked in that movie. He was the one person I liked.
Yeah. We talked about that movie in an episode when we were reviewing the Suicide Squad also. Yeah. So check those out. But anyway, the biggest like tease in BVS is when the camera stops on Robin's costume, hung up with the spray paint from Joker that just says ha 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 on it. And you're like, oh my God, can I learn more about this? And then
it was a very interesting tease.
Oh my God. And then Affleck like walks away kind of like, yeah, you're going to learn about it later. Except we don't. So great. Fucking amazing. Anyway.
Yeah, maybe the Flash movie will show us.
Maybe. Yeah.
Honestly, that's probably the last hope for the Affleck Batman is whatever the hell is going to happen.
Right. So his script is being written by himself, Ben Affleck, and Jeff Johns. Right. At one point, Chris Terrio comes in to do a rewrite or a polish. I get the impression, because I couldn't find it anywhere, I feel like that was Ben Affleck's decision because they've worked together a lot. I don't think the studio's like, hey, Ben, we're going to bring in Terrio to work on your script, because they worked together on Argo.
They were a good team.
Right. So I feel like that was more on Ben instead of Jeff Johns, who we know was like behind the scenes rewriting pages for both Suicide Squad and Justice League and Batman versus Superman.
It's a bit too much.
So again, there's nothing out here to say so, but I always get kind of the impression that like Jeff Johns was pushing his own agenda on a script that maybe Affleck wanted more control over, you know?
Yeah. And we'll never actually know because nobody's going to talk about that. But
yeah. And that's the thing. Like, Affleck is like, he's really real, but he's also very diplomatic in his interviews.
Yeah, he's not going to say anything that's going to fuck him over.
Yeah. Like, he speaks from the heart, and then he's like, but he's very restrained too. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, oh, I want to know. Like, I want the behind the scenes, you know? Anyway, we all know what happens in Batman vs. Superman and in Justice League.
All the studio interference
and firing. Well, sort of. They sort of pushed out Zack Snyder from Justice League. We talk about this a lot in our Justice League episode. So by January 2017, when Affleck and that we know of a lot of other actors, including Ray Fisher and Gal Gadot, had miserable experiences on the reshoots of Justice League.
Thanks to our friend Joss Whedon.
Right. Oh, yeah, Joss Whedon. There's another cook in the kitchen. Ben Affleck is pretty much about to check himself into rehab. He is going through a divorce. He is a complete alcoholic. It's a messy time for him.
He's eating a lot of Dunkin' Donuts.
He's getting out of shape, but that's not passing blame for any of that, right? He's going through a lot. So he exits as a director, but claims to still be on as writer and obviously starring, right? February 2017, while they're looking for a new director, they're talking to Matt Reeves and negotiations break down. Matt Reeves says no to Batman. 1 week later in February, Matt Reeves is hired. I always thought that was an interesting kind of turn of events, but only if he had total creative control. Apparently, Toby Emmerich, he's like a big figure in DC. He's like a chairman. I think now he has he has a bigger title. But anyway, Toby Emmerich is also a guy that Ray Fisher like points to a lot for being like an enabler of like Joss Whedon and kind of this whole bad workplace.
Another issue with the DCEU.
Yeah. Apparently he really wanted Matt Reeves because he was sold on his take, what he wanted to do. Affleck was kind of asked a lot like, are you still Batman? And he said, yes, of course. When Matt Reeves was hired, he said, I'll wear a monkey suit for Matt Reeves. I love him. Like, I love his movies.
So even Affleck was on board at this point.
Or at least he says so.
True.
March 2017. So a month later, apparently, the movie is being rewritten from scratch. Today, we know that Matt Reeves did not want to do Affleck's script. He said he liked it. It was fine. It would have made a great movie, but it wasn't his, and it wasn't his take, and it's not what he wanted to do. Obviously, Tommy Emmerich and DC were like, they hired him on the basis of they give him full creative control. So
it's weird that they were like, all right, yeah, do that.
It is so weird. I don't want to get into that a little bit more but it flabbergasts me that like DC's like trying to put together a universe to rival Marvel's, and they're like, oh, you want to make a non-canon movie?
They just keep shooting themselves in the foot.
Why not? Let's do it. And originally, what a lot of rumors were that he wanted to do a year one style movie, which is what we got, right? He did get full creative.
Essentially, yeah.
He got full creative control. And the theory was, okay, so you're going to cast a younger Batman, and this will all be a prequel.
And then he was like, nah.
So rewrites the movie from scratch. A year later, it's reported that he finishes the script. Rumors of Ben Affleck's involvement are brought into question. There were theories that Affleck would bookend the movie. So again, it would be kind of told from his perspective as a prequel, like a flashback, you know?
Like The Hobbit.
Sure. In August 2018, Matt Reeves claims Affleck is still involved, which is weird wording. Not to be like, yeah, he's the star of the movie. He is still involved.
Which means like maybe he's like a producer or something.
Right. January 2019, Ben Affleck confirms he is no longer Batman. Elaborating on his Justice League experience, Affleck said it had, and this was recent, Affleck said it had particularly soured his interest in the role since it involved his divorce, frequent traveling, and competing agendas. I'm going to underline competing agendas. That should be the subtitle of like the DCEU. Competing agendas.
It seems to be happening with every single player in the DCEU.
As well as the death of Snyder's daughter, Autumn, which led to the director's exit from the project and subsequent extensive reshoots for the film. Affleck recalled that he had shown a version of the Batman script to a friend who said, we also know that the friend is Matt Damon, by the way. So Matt Damon said, I think the script is good. I also think you'll drink yourself to death if you go through what you just went through on Justice League again. So, look.
Matt's being a good friend.
Obviously. And no movie is worth the mental health and physical exhaustion of any human being. Like, these are movies at the end of the day, and they should be fun for everyone, including the people that are involved. And if you ask me, what's the biggest difference between Marvel and DC? I'll tell you, Marvel makes their workplaces fun. And I think you can attribute a lot of success of the MCU to Feige and company making sure that everyone involved is having a good time.
That's one of the situations where having a tight grip on it could be a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, think of any workplace. Think of the worst job you've ever held, and what would you say what was the issue? Probably bad management, right?
Yeah.
And if you go to a great job, it's probably because you're thinking, yeah, the management is really facilitating everything to work the way it should work. Mm-hmm. And this is an enjoyable workplace because they're not unreasonable and the pay is good and there's benefits. And in the day, I'm not being, yelled at or like sexually harassed. Is that so much to ask for,
It shouldn't be, but apparently it is.
So that's kind of what I would say. I would say Warner Brothers has not facilitated a good, healthy workplace, and it shows in how every one of their movies until very recently has had horror stories in the production.
Oh, yeah. And especially with Justice League being the biggest example of that. You have most of the main cast speaking out about it.
And I love how that kind of happened because, not that I hate what happened with Justice League.
Right.
But at the end of the day, there was a lot of accountability that got aired out. Mm-hmm. It was almost like, you think of the Me Too movement where everyone's just like, oh, we're talking about this now because I have a lot of stories with this person and this person. All these things that people were kind of like keeping in because they thought the industry is not they're not holding people accountable and they never will. Therefore, my story is never going to be believed.
Or if you do come out, you're going to get blacklisted.
Exactly. It was Ray Fisher who was like, no, this is bullshit. And Joss Whedon's a dick. And then everyone else started coming out and being like, actually, yeah, I had this horrible experience with Joss Whedon. And fucking, what's her name? Michelle Trachtenberg was like, yeah, we weren't allowed in the same room at the same time because
it was a rule.
It was a rule on set because he's a goddamn creep. That's fucking horrible. And it's horrible that it took decades before that came out.
Yeah.
So obviously,
Actually, most of the cast of like Buffy came out and said like, yeah, it was horrible.
Exactly. Yeah. His ex-wife too.
That might just be airing the dirty laundry.
Gal Gadot doesn't speak English apparently. Yeah. Fuck. God damn it. What a fucking piece
Joss
of garbage.
Whedon's a vampire.
Oh yeah, it's okay because it's okay that he like sexually assaults people because he's a vampire.
He feels like he's a vampire.
Therefore, he deserves to have sex with everyone on set because he was a loser growing up or whatever the fuck he said.
He's weird. I don't like him.
Anyway, we're not talking about Joss Whedon. So I've been pretty kind of clear on how much I hate this movie, The Batman, for this reason.
Right.
I got to be super clear here. I'm not talking about the movie content-wise. I'm talking about the fact that this movie did what it did.
The whole, like, everything that led up to the creation of this movie. Yeah.
I've had a very sour spot for this film because...
Oh, you've been talking about it for like a year.
I know. I was dreading watching this movie. And one of the reasons I was dreading watching is because I was afraid I was going to like it. And I'm like, if I like this movie, then it's kind of like, I don't know, like, then what?
You're allowed to, though.
That's not what I mean. I mean, like, what, like... Because here's the thing. If I like this movie, and if people like it, which they do, this movie's very popular now, and it's got great reviews, and it's making money, right?
Right.
What does that mean? What are, like, the ramifications of this movie being successful for, like, the DCEU?
Oh, it's probably not good for the... Unless they're going to start rewriting The Flash again.
But do you see what I'm saying? It's like, are we going back to... let's just do a bunch of solo movies. Fuck it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Batman's my favorite character. And I think that the Ben Affleck iteration of that is nail on the head. I think that is the defining Batman. He didn't get a full movie, so it's kind of unfair to compare. You know what I'm saying? He had a sort of a B plot in Batman vs. Superman, and then also he had like his arc kind of finish in Zack Snyder's Justice League. And that was all to kind of set up Batman here. Because again, we were going to talk about The Killing. It's a major complaint for a lot of people that like Ben Affleck's... He doesn't kill, but he doesn't care if people die.
Well, and here's the thing. That's happened in every Batman movie.
Sure, except for like this one. And even in this one, I'm like...
This one, there's something questionable that happens that I will talk about later.
There's some collateral damage in this, just like there's in any superhero movie, though. No one's perfect.
But my issue is nobody talked about the collateral damage at all. They just, like, everything's fine now.
All right, well, hold on.
Let's get to that.
Let's get into that.
Because that was one of my issues with the movie.
Here's my thing. You've got Ben Affleck, who has written and directed movies that have won Academy Awards. You know what I'm saying? He is an A-list actor, writer, director in Hollywood. And I'm not going to say anything bad about Matt Reeves because he's very talented also. But when you're given the choice between the two of them and you already have one of them, I don't see why you would go, actually, let's give this guy a chance. Do you know what I mean?
It's weird that they had such like a hard-on for Matt Reeves to like be involved with this.
Here's the other thing. If Ben Affleck doesn't want to do it, because apparently we don't know exactly what happened behind the scenes. I would love to know, like I said.
Because for all we know, he could have like actually been like, I'm done.
Yeah, sure.
And then they were like, well, fuck, we got to do something now.
Yeah. But he also could have been like, I'm going to rehab now, and y'all fucked with me a lot in the last movie. Can you give me a year? And they probably said no. Like, if that's what he said.
That's possible, too.
There's a lot of possibility, and here's the other thing. Because of the change in leadership, the movie gets delayed anyway. If you start from scratch, you start from scratch. Right. So instead of the movie filming later that year, it's supposed to film in 2017 and be out in 2018. It didn't film until 2020. And then COVID happened on top of that.
So it took a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Well,
so
end of 2020, they started it back up, I think.
Sure. But like the earliest date at that point is 2021. So like if that was your date anyway, then why not delay the movie and give Ben Affleck the time he needs? If that be the case. I'm not jumping to conclusions.
Right.
All I'm saying is I feel like you already had a golden goose and you decided to fuck that up. You know what I mean?
They're going to say he decided to fuck the goose.
Yeah, he decided to fuck the goose. They fucked the goose. I'm sorry, they fucked the goose. They fucked over Ben Affleck. They fucked
the goose. They screwed the pooch. They
screwed the pooch. So I think there was always room for that to still happen if Warner Brothers really wanted to do it. But again, like you said, your words, someone had a hard on for Matt Reeves.
Someone with a lot of power.
Sure, Toby Emmerich. But also, here's something else. If Affleck says, this is a lot, I'm going through a lot, I cannot direct. He's still attached contractually to be Batman, right? And maybe he wanted to get out as acting too. But acting is, he's there for a few months and then he's done. It's not the same as when you direct a movie and you're involved for 2-3 years, right? So if you're DC and a director comes up to you and they're like, hey, I want to make this movie, but it's going to erase him from the continuity. Why would DC say yes? That's the part I don't understand, because Matt Reeves is very talented, and we're going to get into whether or not we think this movie is good, right?
Right.
But he's not the only good person out there. There are other great directors out there.
Lots of options.
You have so many options. And there were other names being kind of touted around, so why the hard on? You know?
They were a lot more interested in getting Matt Reeves than they were in cultivating this universe that they were trying to build, it seems. And it's weird because I feel like somebody maybe learned the wrong lessons from the failures of their movie.
Yeah, they're always learning the wrong lessons. That's
so maybe like,
problem.
oh, maybe we shouldn't do a shared universe at all because that's not working out. No, you're just doing it the wrong way.
You're just doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Because all you needed to do, what does Marvel do when they make a less than great movie? They make it better the next time around.
Yeah, they improve. Oh, except for Thor.
No, Thor is what I'm saying. Thor 1, Thor 2 are what's Thor 3?
Oh, Thor 3 is...
It's incredible.
Critically acclaimed, yeah.
Yeah. So
then I thought about it. I like the Dark World better than the first Thor anyway, so
okay,
they did improve.
Yeah. So, do you know what I'm saying? Just make the next movie good and no big deal. Like, The Suicide Squad, great film. It's a sequel to a bad movie. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
All you have to do is make the next one better. Like, that's all you got to do to keep, like, a shared universe going. You know what I mean? And so, this is why this upsets me, is because Iron Man just died, right?
Right.
In Endgame. What if they were like, okay, we're going to make a new Iron Man movie and it's not in the MCU? You'd be like, what the fuck? Why?
Well, if it was a superior Iron Man and they eventually connected it to the MCU via multiverse, that'd be interesting.
Here's the thing. Multiverse kind of gets rid of all these arguments because you can do whatever you want now.
Well, that's if it's done well, though.
And Kevin Feige would be like, no, I'm sorry. Like, we're going to find someone who's going to make a good movie within our
It's kind of what happened to Ant-Man, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
And they had a good director attached to that.
And I would have loved to see
Edgar Wright.
His Ant-Man, yeah. But maybe he would do something weird that doesn't fit in the MCU. Maybe it was all for the better at the end of the day. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's the thing. Feige and Marvel, they have a vision and they're overall sticking to it.
Yeah.
They're compromising only when they have to.
And apparently they're very flexible too. Apparently a lot of this kind of like overarching planning happens movie to movie. You know, the Infinity Saga just kind of accidentally happened the way it did.
And then they're like, you know what? Let's do this.
Like, but they do some loose planning.
Right.
But I feel like Feige's going to go and be like, give me your ideas. And then be like, look, the character has to start here and needs to end somewhere in this area so it will work for the next movie.
It's like, and just don't kill off this character and you're good.
Sure. Like, these are kind of the things you need to do. Here are the rules.
They set up like
crazy.
Bullet points of like what to either do or don't do. And then they're like,
yeah.
All right, now do something within these parameters.
Yeah. But like back on Ben Affleck and Batman, when people tell me Batman doesn't want to do it, I'm like, okay, yeah. But that seems like an oversimplification. Because just fucking like last year, Zack Snyder texted Ben Affleck and he said, I'm filming one more scene. Can you do it?
And he said, yeah.
Emphatically said yes.
And he acted his ass off.
Yeah.
In that one scene.
In that one scene, and you may hate it if you want. It might have been like
2 scenes. Was it 2 scenes?
It's one sequence. Let's put it that way. You may think whatever you want of Zack Snyder's Justice League. You look at Ben Affleck in that scene, and yeah, he's putting years of like pent up anger at this role into that fucking 5-minute scene.
And it works.
It's incredible. I mean, again, some people don't like it. It's whatever. I like it a lot. But I think he put in an entire film's worth of performance in that moment. You can tell that it means a lot to him. Again, this is a man that signed up for fucking 10 projects. Like, he knew what he was getting into, right?
Right.
So, yeah, stuff happens. But I think deep down, he never wanted to not do it, really. It's like at McDonald's, when I get a customer that's really angry, you know, the Karens that you end up seeing on fucking Twitter and shit.
Oh, yeah.
When I get one of those, I end up asking them, like, hey, like, you came here for food. I don't want you to leave without food, right? That's why you came here. So let's work this out, basically. Like, I want to get you your food also. Like, what do we got to do? The metaphor is, you know, he came to do Batman and he didn't get to do that and he left. So it's like, he still probably wants to do it to some capacity because also The Flash.
Yeah, and he's in that.
What's that guy's name? What's the director's name? Andy Muschietti. Andy Muschietti.
He's directing Flash?
He's doing The Flash. He was the guy who did...
I just remember Flash went through like 12 directors, so...
Yeah, including Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
That might have been interesting to see.
It might have, yeah, but...
I know they got fired from Solo, but like they did a really good job with other movies that they've been involved in, so...
Absolutely. Andy Muschietti, when asked, he was like, if Batman has anything to do with our project, it has to be Ben Affleck, because that is the connecting threat.
Oh, he has common sense. Thank God.
Exactly. That's the interconnectivity. So he reached out to Ben Affleck, and Ben Affleck's like, yes. It's like, when given the opportunity to do the thing you want to do in a healthy workplace, you might do that. Like, wow.
Maybe when The Flash comes out, this is like wishful thinking, but like maybe he'll get like the Andrew Garfield treatment where people are like, holy shit, this guy's fucking awesome.
Okay, well, here's the thing too, is apparently not, and there were rumors that they approached him about an HBO show to do Batman, and he said no. There's no concrete evidence of that, I don't think. Because I think that would be an excellent way of, eating your cake and having it too.
Yeah.
Doing a little bit of both.
And we've already seen that good shows can be made
absolutely.
with the HBO budget.
Yeah. And I think now, like, because my question was, what does this mean? What does the success of the Batman mean to the overall DC films?
Yeah.
We might not see Batman play a big role anymore, even though now it's going to be Michael Keaton. I don't see Michael Keaton, who came from a fucking storybook universe in Batman Returns. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. I don't see him coming into this fucking gritty universe and like holding his own. I think he's going to be more of like a Bruce Wayne in the chair type a lot.
Maybe.
Like in Batman Beyond.
Maybe we can get Terry McGinnis.
Yeah, and that'd be fine.
I'd be down with that.
If you've got Michael Keaton as old man Batman, then that does make sense.
I'd be totally cool
That'd
with
be totally fine. But my point is like, we're not going to get an in-universe Batman movie anymore because they can't just put out two Batman movies that compete with each other. It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Unlike comic books where you do this shit all the time. It's like, oh yeah, this Batman's in a different universe.
The general audience will be too confused.
Yeah, and it's millions and millions of dollars. It's not just like a comic book that, it's whatever. A new one comes out every other week anyway.
Or like publishing is probably a few $1,000s.
I don't know. But anyway, I would love to know for real if that was true, that they offered him some more Batman stuff and he said no. If it isn't, cool. Like, I'm not going to be hung up about it. He said no, you know? But my gut feeling, just from seeing how, like, emphatic he's been about coming back to do Batman in certain instances, like, can we do the Andrew Garfield? If it's possible.
Can we do the Andrew Garfield?
Because, like, to your point is now there's rumors that, like, maybe Andrew Garfield's going to get his Spider-Man 3. Maybe we're going to get different Spider-Man movies with different Spider-Man in it, and everyone's okay with it because everyone saw that fucking movie and they're all going to get it.
Yeah, it's been established in a way to where it's actually possible to do. So again, nothing has been confirmed on that front either, but
yeah. Are you ready to move on?
Yeah, there's a lot of history behind this movie.
Sure. Yeah, let's move on a little bit. Let's go to the chat. Let's take a quick break from yelling about Ben Affleck. That was a good movie. Oh, the Snyder Cut. Yeah.
Snyder Cut was great.
Snyder Cut was great. I really liked that one. I watched it again, and I think I liked it an iota less just because like the surprise isn't there anymore, like when you watch a movie for the first time.
Right. But I'm sure like it still tells a much better story than we had before. And then
the worst thing about that movie is that there's a 5.5-6 year gap between that and BVS, because it was only supposed to be like a year and a half. And so like for the character of Batman specifically, like Batman in BVS is like basically he's like beyond saving. He's in a super dark place. He doesn't care about collateral damage, even though he's directly not like murdering people. That's supposed to be an arc, because in Justice League, he's like a renewed person.
Yes. And we talked about that.
Yeah. And now he's like, Faith, Alfred, I'm working off Faith. Like, I'm the nice guy now.
And you actually see him like smile.
Yeah. And you're just like, holy shit, what this would have done to this perception of Batfleck had it come out in 2017 when it was supposed to.
It would have been good.
Would have been great. Anyway, let's move on. Let's get into non-spoilers for this movie, The Batman. So we're not spoiling anything quite yet. We're going to talk about our thoughts without getting into any specific details before we actually then get into spoilers.
All right.
Do you want to just kick it off? Overall thoughts?
Yeah.
What would your review for the movie be before we get specific, I guess?
Well, I know it's going to be different from yours.
What the fuck, Amazon? I don't want to rate a purchase right now.
Overall, I did like this movie. That's not to say I didn't have issues with it, but I did like it.
Okay.
It's a little on the long side.
I think it's long too.
But
I want to talk about it.
It didn't bother me too much, but thinking about it, like I've had a few days to think about it, whereas you had like one. I think a good like 20 minutes or so could have been shaved off this movie and we wouldn't have lost too much. That being said,
I agree.
I also like that there was a lot of dialogue in this movie, and I was kind of about it. Not all of it's necessarily plot relevant, like it's just characters talking to each other. I don't hate that stuff, though. I know some people do, but I'm fine with it. So length, it wasn't an issue for me, but the movie could be a little bit shorter.
I think you can cut 20 minutes off of this movie and not even notice, because there are a lot of shots that just go on too long, I think.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you could easily cut time off of this and pace it a hair quicker.
Like make it a little more tight?
Yeah. It is kind of meandering, I think, in a lot of places. There's like a subplot in it that I feel like doesn't really go very far. I get it, but it's also kind of like, I feel like that could have been written differently. And even if it's still in the movie, it could have been edited differently.
Yeah.
I did feel the length.
The movie could use a little bit more editing.
Here's the thing. That's coming from the person who will say that Zack Snyder's Justice League is 4 hours and it's fine at 4 hours.
It wasn't long enough.
Because, well, no, not necessarily, not that. Just because that movie had a lot of content.
Yeah.
So, and this is something I'm noticing a lot more when I watch something. I'm like, that could be longer, that could be shorter. I'm starting to realize, editing wise, when something needs more length and when something has enough or too much, you know? And I feel like this movie, it did a lot less content wise, therefore it could have been a lot tighter and it wouldn't have moved so slow in some places.
Okay.
But overall for me, we just went on a whole thing and I talked about how I didn't want this movie to come out. Like, I just didn't want to see it. Like, I held a personal vendetta against this movie. That being said, I am very good, I think, at separating my internal biases with, like, what's presented to me on screen. You know? And I think if you listen to us talk about these movies that sometimes are really bad, like, most of the movies we talk about are bad. Let's be for real. There's more bad ones than good ones.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's kind of like a 50-50.
And sometimes we even, like, enjoy the bad ones, but we still acknowledge that it's bad.
I think I am pretty objective. I will tell you the things I like and do not like, and I'll tell you the things that I think are good and bad. And those are not related at all. Whether something's good and bad and whether you like it or don't like it is completely unrelated. So my expectations for this film were, this is going to be a good movie. And I expect that because I saw it late. I saw it on Sunday. So, like, there were already...
The hype was already just...
Hype is high.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about it. There's just so much talk about this movie. The reviews are out. They're overwhelmingly positive. I was expecting really good things. And I was ready to just enjoy it for something that's probably really good. That being said, again, I'm separating my bias. It's fine. I think it's okay. I don't think it's that great. I think this movie... It thinks it's smarter than it is because, as you probably know, it's a detective movie, and those are great. I love detective movies. But this film specifically, I think, is trying to do other movies that are a little bit better and just put Batman in it. And I already think that's a losing formula. It reminds me of Joker, where it's like...
Let's take Taxi Driver.
And King of Comedy.
And put the Joker in it.
And put the Joker in it. That's what that was. And we complained about that a few weeks ago when we were talking about Batman 66, with Chris. I would rather have something completely original than you go, I'm going to take 50% of this, 20% of that, and a little bit of like Batman The Long Halloween, which I'm starting to read right now. It's really good. And they did take a little bit of that for this movie. And we're going to kind of like Frankenstein this and then try to give it our own twist. But really it's like, look, this is the plot of one David Fincher movie. The premise of a different David Fincher movie with Batman in it. That's what I think this is.
All right.
And I think those movies did it better. And it's unfortunate, but you shouldn't have, I think, again, a lot of people like it. You shouldn't have gone in going, we're going to remake a couple David Fincher's movies with Batman in it.
Here's the thing, though. On paper, that sounds cool.
That to sell a movie, we're going to be like, oh, yeah, we're going to do this. You know, if you come and you're like, hey, I'm going to do Daredevil, and it's going to be like... I don't know, Heat. That's a random comparison, by the way. I just picked two movies. And maybe you're trying to sell it to a producer and they're like, oh, I can see it.
Like, that's like the pitch.
Yeah, but don't go literally and do Heat. Do you know what I mean? Because The Dark Knight did Heat. There's a whole section in The Dark Knight that is clearly based off of Heat. Mm-hmm. The interrogation scene. But you tell me that feels derivative of anything. The Batman Joker interrogation scene in The Dark Knight.
A little bit, but not like...
It blows you out of the fucking water, I think. Sorry, I forgot. You think The Dark Knight's a little overrated.
A little bit. I might be the wrong person to talk to about that one.
Sure, okay. But that was the only example I could think of because I said Heat. Story-wise, I think this movie starts out very strong. The first half hour, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm starting to feel this. It's very focused, and then it kind of in the middle sputters out a little bit, and then just kind of sizzles out at the end. I think the main problems come from that. It's the plot of the film. I don't know where you fall with that.
I mean, I'll admit, like, I didn't think the plot was anything like spectacular or anything like that. I thought it was fun's not the right word, but it's a very easy word to use.
I don't think this was fun. I didn't have fun.
I had fun.
You had fun?
I had fun just following along with it. Yeah,
I had fun with the penguin. I thought he was a lot of fun.
He was great. I do kind of wish he was the main villain, which
sequel, babe.
Sort of. Again, I don't want to talk about it too much.
Okay, we know
Penguin's in it.
Penguin's in it.
He was in the trailer.
And we know Riddler's the villain, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about Riddler?
It's weird because...
Is it the gimp mask? Because that's really weird.
The gimp mask is weird. His mannerisms, I thought, were actually pretty good.
I'm going to talk more about the gimp mask later because it's a little derivative of a thing that I'm already not mentioning, but let's go on.
But I thought the character was great. I liked him. I didn't like his costume really at all.
No, it's a gimp mask.
Yeah. So every time I saw him, I was like, ugh. Like it looked disturbing, but I don't look. Maybe not in the right way.
Here's a minor spoiler, actually. If you think you're gonna go see this movie and maybe you're like, oh, he's gonna take off the gimp mask after a minute, we're barely gonna see it. No. You see a lot of it.
Oh, it's on almost the whole time.
It's a bit much, is what I'm saying.
But they also don't directly show him all that much too, because it's the Riddler. You know, he's not a fighter.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think overall as a villain, I enjoyed the performance. Again, there were issues with what I liked. That it's like everything I like. There's always there's some pull with it. Stuff I didn't like, and the Gimp Mask is one of them.
I will say I like the character, and I think it was a smart take on the Riddler for the modern age. In the era of artificial intelligence and machine learning, it would be hard for the Riddler to stump anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the riddles that he employs,
some of them were pretty good, actually.
Some of them are good, yeah.
A lot better than we talked about in the previous movie.
Yeah, and it's not one that, it's not like, oh, let's ask 50 people, one of them will get the riddle right, or like, let's put it in a computer and the computer will figure it out. It's a little bit more than that, isn't it?
There is a bit of thinking involved with that, and I enjoyed that.
There's almost some escape room elements,
a little bit.
Now you got to go to a place, and now you got to find the key to do this other thing.
Yeah.
I really do like that. I think picking the Riddler was a good idea, and I think this movie did the Riddler pretty well.
Especially since, and this isn't a spoiler because this was also in, everything leading up to the release. This is an earlier Batman. This is his first movie. He hasn't been Batman too long, so this is kind of his first real, rogues gallery type villain. Because before, he's just beating the shit out of, petty criminals.
Yeah. So, this Batman's in his second year.
Yeah. It's a year 2
Batman.
Story.
It's a year 2 story. By the way, this is a little side note. Pet peeve of mine, I hate that people can't count. And, so basically, I've been seeing a lot of, oh, Batman, after 2 years of being Batman, I'm like, no, he's in year 2, which means he's been Batman for a year. 1 year. But you see it a lot of times.
Max is actually guilty of that.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people are. A lot of people will be turning 30. Oh, I'm so excited for what my 30th year will bring. And I'm like, it's your 31st year. Because you're turning 30. Therefore, you've lived 30 years.
You lived year 0.
And now you're entering your 30th year. Anyway.
But yeah, no, a lot of people will be like, oh, how is he still new if he's been doing this for 2 years? No, he started 2 years ago.
Yeah, less. He's in year 2. He started a year ago.
Yeah.
Somewhere between 1 and 2 years. That's all I'm saying.
1 and 2, yeah, he...
Pet peeve is what I'm saying.
It's been less than 2 years. It's year 2 of him doing this.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, little thing. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So this movie is very much like a detective story in the style of a lot of people have been making this comparison to Zodiac. Do you think this movie being PG-13 is more adult or less adult than Batman's last couple forays, which have been R-rated, in Batman vs. Superman, the Ultimate Cut, and Zack Snyder's Justice League?
Adult in what way, though?
What's the target audience?
The target audience for this movie is probably adults.
Do you see a child watching this movie?
I don't think a child should be watching this movie.
Well, I mean, it's PG-13. Children can go see
right.
it. Yeah,
I think thematically this one is a bit more adult.
I don't think a child could follow the plot.
No.
Again, this is kind of like a high
the violence is toned down a little bit, but that's only because it's not rated R.
That's what I'm saying. It's like the things about ratings. It's like, it is.
No, this is
a
film for grown-ups.
I think a child could follow Zack Snyder's Justice League just fine and would not be able to follow this movie. And I think the only things that make that movie adult are a little bit of blood. And I guess Darkseid is scary. But do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
no, the rating system's weird.
Yeah. I feel like this was more adult than any of that.
And this one was... Well, I guarantee you the only reason why this one was PG-13 was to get more people in the theater.
Oh, no, obviously. But
I'm sure if Matt Reeves actually had full control, it'd be R-rated.
Yeah. And there's a couple scenes where I was like, he'd be bleeding more.
Yeah.
Some things happen to Batman and there's not a lick of blood, and I'm like, this is bullshit.
Oh, no, Philly, this absolutely should have been the R-rated Batman movie.
Yeah, I'm saying tonally and, like, plot-wise, like, it feels very R-rated, and, like, the plot is not something a child could follow along with.
It does feel like Zodiac in good ways.
You have to be paying attention, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of clues. It's like a cop procedural. There's a lot of clues.
A lot of it is visual.
It takes them to a different place, and then they're like, well, what's this character's motivations? Mm-hmm. Like, what about this suspect? Oh, we got to go interrogate this other person.
And sometimes, like, oh, man, I'm interrogating the wrong person.
It's like an episode of Law & Order is what I'm saying, and that's not for children.
Yeah.
Nothing in this movie should be R-rated content-wise, but I just feel like it feels more like it's adult.
It's the most adult feeling Batman movie I've seen.
Insofar as I don't think any child could sit and just like enjoy this.
They certainly couldn't figure out the riddles.
No, absolutely not. I was talking to a friend about Batman Forever. That's a family-friendly movie. The riddles are smart because they start out easy and then they end hard. You just got something for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, here's something.
I guess.
We're talking about the Riddler and his riddles. I still think that the best riddle I've ever heard is from Batman Forever.
Which one?
We're 5 little items of an everyday sort. You'll find us all in a tennis court. It's so good. It's the best riddle I've ever heard.
I don't remember the answer to that.
It's vowels, because a tennis court has all 5 vowels used once in order.
Okay.
It's a great riddle, is all I'm saying.
That one is a good riddle. Okay.
I've never heard a better riddle. That's all I'm saying. Let's move on. So anyway, yeah, Riddler was good. There were a lot of times in this movie that I was let down by this Batman.
Is it the character or the acting that's
the character?
You down? Okay.
The character. I feel as if every iteration of a well-known character has the right to put its own spin on that character.
Right.
It's allowed to put its own stank on it. You know what I mean? That being said, how far can you move that character from where it's well-known to the point where you're like, well, would that character do that? Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
It's like if you were to watch a new version of Sherlock Holmes and he's just like...
Well, Sherlock Holmes has been transformed, like...
I know.
Beyond recognition at times.
Well, all Sherlock Holmes they're smart. Like, my point is, let me finish.
Yeah.
What if that Sherlock Holmes was making stupid decisions? You'd be like, hold on a second.
Well, all right. Here's my counter to that, because are you saying like this Batman kind of makes a lot of like mistakes and stuff like? Because keep in mind he's very inexperienced.
Yes. Okay. And that's the thing. I get it. Like, I totally get it. There were just times where I was like, this doesn't feel like Batman would do that. You know what I mean? Or this doesn't feel very Batman to me. Or like, I don't. Look, I know. And at that point, I understand that I am being a little critical in a way that maybe the movie doesn't want me to be. You know what I mean? It's not as bad as Joker, because the movie Joker completely redefines the entire character of Joker.
No. See, I like this movie and I fucking hated Joker.
Yeah. This is still Batman. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying there were times where I was like, and we'll get to it specifically, but I was like, this doesn't feel like Batman. Well, Batman wouldn't do that. And I can tell you like 6 or 7 times where I was like, that feels like a different character. Here's something I can say without spoiling. Moon Knight. The character of Moon Knight is a ripoff of Batman. Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
The creators of Moon Knight have admitted to it. That's what that is. Mm-hmm. It's the Marvel analog copycat, right? That being said, I've been reading... The same ones you've been reading. The Moon Knight.
I read another issue today, actually. I'm on issue 7 now.
Oh, yeah, I think I'm on 6.
Okay.
So that's neither here nor there. There are a lot of things about Moon Knight, though, that are made specifically to differentiate him from Batman.
Mm-hmm.
The irony here is that there were times in this movie where I was like, that's what Moon Knight would do, not Batman. And I'll tell you specifically when we get into spoilers.
Okay.
But it's one of those things where I was like...
I took a lot of it as like, this specific iteration of Batman Bruce Wayne still has room
to grow. Yeah.
Because if a lot of people want to compare it to the Nolan films, which I feel like isn't a fair comparison yet.
I think it's pretty fair, actually.
Maybe if you're comparing it to just Batman Begins.
I feel like the Nolan movies did what this wanted to do. They're like, oh, we're going to make a more gritty, realistic Batman. That's the Nolan movies.
I think they went too realistic. Like, at the time, I loved it, but looking back, he might have gone too realistic.
No, I completely agree. It's a great take on Batman.
But that Batman, remember, was trained by assassins. Apparently, he's like a super genius.
But that's what Batman is, though. Batman is a super genius.
Right.
Genius level intellect.
Again, this Batman, how old is this Batman? Like 20?
I think he's 28.
28? Is he like my age?
Are you 28?
I am.
Well, then yes.
Well, I mean, like...
Robert Pattinson's like 30-something.
Okay,
but,
that kind of tracks. Okay.
Yeah, but this Batman is specifically 28 because it's been 20 years since he was 8 years old when his parents died.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't give like the too young thing, but I can say the too inexperienced
He's
thing.
young at being Batman.
Yeah.
Sure. Look, I get it. Here's the thing. I don't want to wait 3 movies before I'm like, oh, now he's Batman.
Spider-Man did it.
No, Spider-Man did it in some ways, but he was still Spider-Man on day 1. We met him in Civil War. That's Spider-Man. You know what I mean? And as he went on, you're like, yep.
A lot of people like to say he was Iron Man Jr.
Well, those people are dumb, I think. Okay, but those little things like the Iron Man Jr. bits, yes, that took 3 movies to develop, and then he became the classic Spider-Man.
The Spider-Man we know.
Right.
This Batman isn't there yet either, though. That's what I'm saying. It's not a 1-to-1 like comparison, but it's similar.
Okay, here's the thing. I think you want to compare it to Batman Begins. Oh, actually, you said you don't want to compare it to Batman Begins.
Well, if you were to compare it to a Nolan movie, I think Batman Begins is the fair one to do it, not The Dark Knight, which is apparently the pinnacle of cinema.
Jesus. Tell me how you really feel. Anyway, I think by the end of Batman Begins, I'm like, that's Batman. Like, he's doing it. He's doing Batman. You know what I mean?
All right.
We'll get to specifics later. Because it's hard to tiptoe around it. Do you have anything else in non-spoilers before we move on?
Let me look at my notes that I typed up on my...
Wow. This is the first time Berto's typed notes. It's been a year and like a half of making this podcast. And suddenly he's bringing notes to the table.
Yeah, a lot of the other stuff I have to say kind of has something to do with what's going on in the movie, so...
All right, cool. Let's talk to the chat for a second.
Oh, that was one of my things. The Gotham in this movie feels a lot more lived in than the Nolan one. The Nolan one feels like, it's like, hey, this is real life New Jersey. But like this Gotham has like that Gotham feel to it. It's more gothic. It's more... It feels comic booky, but at the same time, kind of like a real place. Does that make sense?
Kind of. It just feels like a shitty city. And I felt like it was trying to be New York. It just felt like New York.
Hell's Kitchen.
It felt like the grim and grimy parts of New York. Not dissimilar to like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that we've seen. Or like a Daredevil.
Okay,
do you know what I mean?
That's fair.
Especially with like some landmarks that they just call Gotham. But that's clearly from New York. Even though they didn't film it there. It's clearly like a reference to New York City. You know what I mean?
New York inspired.
Look, there's a Times Square and there's a Madison Square Garden.
I did think the Times Square thing was a little weird.
But
that's it. That's the only part of the city I thought was a little weird.
Okay. Well, anyway, let's
still better than Nolan's Gotham.
Sure. Okay. Spoilers. Let's break this down like we usually would in terms of story, action, cinematography, acting, those categories. Let's start story-wise. You want to go first, actually? Because
what?
I don't know. Story. Do you have?
Am I gonna talk about the story different than you are?
I don't know. Do you want me to go?
You can go.
You go.
You go.
It's a detective story, and it's kind of over convoluted, right? But here's a counter to that. There's always a counter, right? A detective story should be convoluted. It should be kind of hard to follow. You know,
Well, for the viewer as well, maybe
a little
bit.
A little bit. when you make a movie, you have to make the viewer feel like they are the main character. Like they are not just watching what's happening, they're living what's happening.
Like, I'm going to solve this alongside Batman.
Like, if they're confused, you should be a little confused too, you know? A lot of people might not like
that. Did an okay
that.
job with that.
Yeah. It's like you have to make the riddles, for example, hard enough that most people couldn't solve it.
But not impossible.
And also, like, you should be impressed when Batman solves it. You shouldn't be like, it's obviously this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There were some riddles where I was like, Batman, come the fuck on.
Well, I liked that there was one specific one that he was having trouble solving.
We're talking about the
it might be the
Spanish one?
Yeah.
Okay, here's my big hang up with that is that El Rata Alada is kind of a complex Spanish word, right?
Right.
So for someone to know what that means, but they don't understand El and La is bullshit. In that case, you shouldn't have...
Penguin kind of points that out.
He does, which I'm kind of glad. I'm like,
he's like, what is this guy, stupid?
They're like lampshading this thing, right? And then it had to do with like the URL, right? But at the same time, it's like, what? Because it's not a very common thing, and it's complex because if you speak Spanish, it means winged, like a winged beast, right?
Yeah.
Which happens to have an analog in English, but any word in Spanish can be changed to mean the condition of having. So like, alada means like the condition of having wings, right? So like, rata alada is a rat who has wings.
Like
right?
that's a literal translation.
Yeah. And it's like, you can do that with a lot of words. So it's more about understanding the rule of conjugating more so than knowing that word specifically. If you told me that word out of context, I wouldn't know what word that is. You're just like, what does alada mean? I'm like, I don't know.
Well, when he was trying to solve that though, I will say the first thing I thought of was a bat, but...
That's the thing. A rat with wings, his first assumption should have been bat.
Well,
he's Batman.
In their world, though, when they thought rat, they were thinking like,
okay,
you know, like a criminal rat.
No, right, and that ended up being,
I get that.
And that's the thing. Riddles aren't literal; they have multiple meanings.
Yeah.
You have to think outside the box, right? So yeah, it's perfect that he didn't mean a rat with wings is a bat. He meant it's a person with wings, sort of, who's also a rat. He's a snitch. Yeah. Right. However, the fact that like 30 minutes after reading this riddle, they're like, "Oh my god, what about a bat?" That's where I'm like, seriously, that should have been your first. Like, I'm fine that wasn't the correct answer, you know. But because you should have to think about it a little bit more. It's a riddle, but at the same time, it's like that should have been your first. People call bats rats with wings all the time. It's a flying rodent, for fuck's sake. Like, that should have been...
That's why it's the first thing I thought of. But, like, I also get, in the context of the movie, why he was pursuing something different.
Well, that's why I think he should have thought Batman first and then been like, oh, wait, no, we're wrong.
Like, reverse it?
Yeah, and then go and then find Falcone or whatever. Which, by the way, they mispronounce Falcone the entire movie just so that they can call it Falcon. Which I'm like, cool, if that's not that character's name, but that's fine.
I've heard him called Falcone by, like, other people, too, though. Like...
It's Falcone in the Nolan movies.
I know. That's why I'm like,
I'm just saying it's always Falcone.
The Nolan movies are also like, hey, let's make things like this is the Falcone family because that's a real Italian name. Maybe. I didn't have an issue with that.
It's a small. Okay, but here's the thing. He's Batman, and he should be a little bit smarter than that. And that's the thing where I'm like, so there were other times where I'm like, bro, you're not being smart.
Maybe
like these are dumb decisions that you're making.
Maybe this leads to him being a smarter Batman, a smarter vigilante, a smarter person overall. You know, lessons learned.
Okay. Sure. I'll give you that. Overall story, I think, though, the whole, like, detective story is a lot of fun. Those movies are fun.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But they have to have a payoff at the end. And this movie has no payoff at the end, I think. I think this movie completely fizzles out at the end.
The villain kind of wins.
And that's not...
The villain does win.
Okay, so what I was saying earlier... about which David Fincher movies I'm talking about, the premise is Zodiac.
Yeah.
Right? Because the Zodiac Killer, first of all, the costume is based on the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah.
Riddler's costume. And also he used ciphers. All his like little clues had all these random ciphers that they had to like put in a computer and they had to figure out and all this stuff, right? Which is
something I could see like a modern day Riddler doing.
Sure.
Ciphers are like, that's a thing.
Sure. That's not the problem. And at first I was like, I was confused because I was like, he just gave him the answer. What? And then it's revealed that like as Alfred is trying to work the cipher, he's like, well, it doesn't make total sense because we don't have all these other symbols. And
right.
That was the clue.
You need more information.
Yeah. all that's cool, but the plot is Seven. It's the plot of the movie Seven, where you've got two detectives and they're going murder by murder, solving all the clues, trying to put together. Really, they're walking into the guy's trap and they know it, right? Then the villain gets himself caught on purpose because his final plan is already in motion, and now he wants to be beside the detectives that he's purposefully torturing in order to witness his grand plan all at the same time.
A little bit of a spin on that in that he genuinely thought Batman was on his side.
Okay, sure. Okay, hold on. But there's a huge payoff in that movie. There is this fucking like scene-eating moment where Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman are going fucking crazy. They're acting their hearts out. It's written so well. What's in the box? You know?
That is iconic.
And it ties the whole movie up together. And then you would sit there and say, I would watch 5 hours of this movie if it ends like this. That's how good Seven is. That doesn't happen here. At the end of this movie, it just kind of ends. What?
Well, all right. Oh, hang on. The movie ends with Batman finally becoming a hero.
Hang on. No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. It absolutely does.
It ends with him sort of saving people. Those people were not in peril at all.
Everybody was about to get electrocuted to death.
He doesn't do any... Okay, hold on.
He cuts the wire like you do in the Arkham games.
Why doesn't he cut the wire below him?
Movie drama.
Because he's stupid. That's why. Because Batman's stupid in this movie.
Because the script said so, and you can say that about almost any movie that we love.
He's got the knife with his right hand. He's holding the wire with his left hand, and he cuts it above his... Just cut it 1 foot lower, and then you don't fall down, presumably to your death, right? And then everything's fine.
What? Caleb's right. He learns to be hope and not vengeance. And that is said when they ask the fucking... what you called the Redditor, what he was.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he said that he's vengeance.
The end of this movie is Batman versus Redditors.
It's Batman versus fucking armed assailants.
They're imbeciles with guns is what they are.
They were pretty fucking successful.
No, they didn't kill that lady.
They didn't kill her, but they got a fucking shot off on her. Yeah, they're not trained assassins, but they were very much a threat. And that was so realistic that it was kind of scary because shit like that happens.
Who wants to see Batman versus QAnoners?
I was fine with it.
I'm sorry. That's not a Batman villain. Like, that's not a Batman level threat, okay?
It's a higher threat than a street mugging, which Batman stops all the fucking time.
I don't... Okay, those people, they were not in any peril. They were just sitting there. And it's not like Batman was like, I found the way out or anything like that. He gets there. He moves like one pylon. He's like, move this thing over. And then everyone's like, now what? And he's like... follow me, I guess. And they slowly walk out, and then they go up to the roof.
Yeah, and he helps with the evac.
Okay.
It ends with Batman being hopeful and not a symbol of fear anymore.
I do want to talk... Okay, I want to talk about that.
So thematically, there's a payoff.
No.
Did it fall a little flat? Sure.
I want to... No, but we're talking about story. And I want to get into those themes because I agree with you to some extent. There are thousands of people probably dying right now because the Riddler has successfully flooded the entire goddamn city. This is a... humanitarian crisis, right? And you're supposed to be proud of Batman for putting one person in a stretcher. Because hold on.
That's all they showed, but
exactly.
There's implications there.
What are the okay, hold on.
He's helping with the humanitarian relief, and I guarantee you, as Bruce Wayne, he put a shit ton of money towards the Gotham relief.
Off screen. So he should have maybe stopped the threat in the first place. And I'm perfectly fine with the villain winning. Again, they're doing the plot of Seven. The villain wins at the end, but it's satisfying. And in this, not even a little bit. There is no satisfying conclusion to Batman versus the Riddler in this. They have a final confrontation, but Batman just stands there, and the Riddler just kind of talks to him for a minute, and then Batman yells at him, "What did you do?" And then he runs away to go save the day.
You missed shit in that scene because that's the scene where Batman realized he was a pawn this whole time. Those riddles, they weren't just riddles like, oh, catch me, Batman. They were fucking instructions on what Batman needs to do next. Okay. And Batman followed him.
So, 7. It's 7.
It's 7, but like it was...
But 7 ended well. It ended amazingly.
I thought this ended fine.
a ringing endorsement. He says it's fine.
Fine as in like that. It wasn't a bad ending by any means.
Okay, I'm sorry. Like, I sat through 2.5 hours of a detective procedural, which is good. Don't get me wrong. That's a good formula. But when it ends, it just feels like, you lit the firecracker and it just, that one's a dud. Like, it doesn't, nothing happens at the end is what I'm saying. I literally turned over, because Sable, this was her second viewing, and I look at her and I'm like, is there more to this movie? Because I honestly felt this isn't the end. This is like the setup to the third act. The beginning of the third act, I was like, oh shit, now we got to go, and something else was going to happen. I thought there was going to be something, and then the movie ends. Okay, so answer me this. What would happen if Batman just stayed home at the end?
Well, that woman would have been killed.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What about, okay, so there's...
The mayor would have been killed.
No. The mayor got saved by Jim Gordon.
Because Batman was fighting the people shooting.
Catwoman was there too.
Catwoman only went there because Batman was there.
I think movie would... Okay, hold on.
Batman was necessary.
Can we agree a bunch of other people died off screen because the whole fucking city's flooded?
Yes.
Okay, so...
There's nothing anybody could have done about that.
So if Batman had stayed home, then like 3 more people might have died, is what you're saying.
There was way more than 3 people in that little expo center.
There was like
man.
20. Come
sorry.
On. There was. You see the scene where it's top down. It's a good shot. Don't get me wrong. It's a good shot. There's the cinema, and we're gonna get to cinematography. It's fantastic. But the cinematography is trying to tell you how to feel, but the content is not there. I feel it's similar to Joker in that, where the cinematography in Joker tries to it demonstrates Joker in such a light that you're supposed to go like, oh, what an intriguing character, whatever. But he hasn't done anything intriguing yet. Do you see what I'm saying?
No.
It's not a good pairing. So, anyway, I think if Batman had stayed home, everything would have happened exactly the same way.
If Batman stayed home, another maybe 100 people would have died, including the mayor of Gotham. The newly mayor-elect of Gotham. So let's say, and possibly Jim Gordon.
So let's say 5,000 people died. 5,100 people would have died if Batman.
Are you saying those people don't matter?
Of course,
because Batman thinks they matter, and that's why he's now a symbol of hope for Gotham.
Okay, of course they matter. Every human life matters, but that's not a Batman level impact. I think Batman should have had more to do because he didn't have that much to do at the end of the movie. He gets rung around a lot, like a fucking rag doll, metaphorically speaking. Because to your point, yeah. They 7'd it, right? He was a cog in Riddler's plan the entire time. He walked right into his trap. That's fine, but I kind of wanted... Shouldn't Batman just kind of get the better of him at the end? He's Batman.
He's new Batman. He's still new.
You know what this movie is?
He's not experienced.
You know, this movie is a detective movie, right?
Right.
It's a detective movie insofar as it's not like... Oh, you know how Batman's a detective, but he's also Batman? This Batman's just a detective. He's just like a regular cop with a notepad and a fucking phone and a desk. That's how I feel. I feel like it's a regular police officer wearing a Batman costume. Because this whole movie is him and Jim Gordon playing buddy cop. And that would be fine if it weren't the entire movie. If it was half the movie and the other half of the movie is Batman doing Batman stuff, that would be a fucking amazing Batman movie. But it is Batman being just a detective.
It's Batman being a vigilante / detective.
It's... Okay.
Vigilante in like an actual vigilante, not superhero. It's not a superhero movie. It's a vigilante movie.
Batman's a superhero.
Not at this point, he's not.
Batman is not just a vigilante.
He's a superhero at the end of this movie when he becomes a symbol of hope.
And he's not... We're going to get into the themes. He's not just a superhero because obviously he doesn't have superpowers. He's a superhero because of his unbreakable will.
I didn't see his will break in this. He got knocked down. You know what? He got back up. He stabbed himself with...
I thought you were doing the lyrics. I thought that was
got knocked down, but he
got up again. He'll never get any... How does it go?
You're never going to keep him down?
Yeah. I get knocked out.
No, he got knocked the fuck out, yes. But you know what he did when he saw that Selina was in danger? He fucking pulled out what looked like, actually, it kind of looked like venom that he injected himself with. That was interesting.
It was adrenaline.
I think adrenaline's neon green. Venom is.
I guess it was neon green. Yeah, you're right. I read it as just like
and it made him really like violent. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll get a comic accurate Bane.
I want to put a pin on that because if they make more of these movies, I'm like, what villains are you going to use? You're stuck with the same villains Nolan did because he was a gritty, realistic Batman. So now what?
I think they could do a pretty good.
Can't do Poison Ivy. They can't do Two-Face. They can't do.
They could do.
They already did Two-Face like that. You know what I mean?
They can do. Ooh,
Clayface?
I'd like to. Clayface would be interesting. I'd like to see a Mr. Freeze in this universe, and
even that's borderline.
It's borderline.
It's very science
fiction, but
fiction-y.
it could be very fucking good. And the other one is, do you know who the Court of Owls are?
Okay. Yes, I know what the Court of Owls and City of Owls are my favorite Batman stories. I've read it a few times.
Could fit very well.
They just did it. The Riddlers of the Court of Owls. They just fucking did it. Hold on. The only difference is that Court of Owls are rich and the Riddlers are poor. That's it. The whole reveal of the Court of Owls, it's a bunch of people that are secretly behind the scenes doing all this shit.
Right.
They just did that with Riddler. There's a team of Riddlers at the end. There's a social media of Riddlers.
Someone having a fringe following is much different from a secret society / cult that has existed for a long time and actually has control over things that happen.
But the mechanics are the same.
Adjacent.
My point is, it wouldn't be a surprise anymore because you mechanically already did.
What if you found out Thomas
Owls.
and Martha Wayne were members of the Court of Owls?
Okay, I want to talk about Thomas and Martha Wayne. Let's move on because we're stuck on this. So at the end, okay,
we're gonna talk circles about.
Yes. So I feel as if this story fizzles out and it's the third act is very weak and you don't. Right.
Correct.
Let's move on.
He's a symbol of hope.
All right, this movie starts out as a noir, like a straight up crime noir. And I really like that angle, except that it abandons it about 15 minutes into the movie.
I think most of the movie kind of follows that path.
I think it continues being one insofar as it is a detective story, and crime noir movies are detective stories. And then all those other elements are just kind of like, yeah, whatever, we're not going to do with that.
Do you
anymore.
mean like in the sense of like just the way it's like how we saw Riddler hunting his target at the beginning and stuff? Like,
yeah,
like that. I do wish we got a little bit more of that, but also like how would we have gotten more of that?
I would have loved voiceover the entire movie. I think that would have been smart. And I'm not the kind of person that likes voiceovers. We got
that a couple more times with Batman's
at
Journal.
The very end.
I think there was one more time at least.
It was very little is what I'm saying. And that was what I was really excited about when the movie started. I was like, oh, you know what? This reads a lot like a Batman comic because Batman is very verbose in comics, inner monologue. He's very quiet, speaking wise, right? But it's just pages and pages of him thinking out loud, and you get to read all of that.
I think it would have been a little too ballsy for them to do that voiceover the entire movie.
I don't know. It just starts and kind of stops, and then I'm like, oh. And then at the end, he's like, yeah, Gotham sucks now. Come see the next movie for more. I'm like, great.
That's an oversimplification.
No. We talked about how this movie's kind of slowish.
We talked about how it was longish. It's a slow burn type story. So
here's where you can cut time off. Batman spends a lot of time standing around and walking very slowly. The camera lingers on that a lot, and I get it.
It looks good.
Of course, it looks good.
It looks good. It looks good. Like I get it too.
It gets boring after a little bit.
They do it maybe one or too many times.
He just kind of stands a lot in this movie.
His first appearance in the movie though, when he's coming out of the shadows in the subway station, that was good. That was very good.
It was very slow, and also I kind of laughed at that. Do you know why?
Why?
Because he goes, here's the line, because I remember, because I thought it was funny. I thought it was good, and then it becomes funny. He goes, I'm not in the shadows. I am the shadows. And I was like, ooh.
That sounds like the most Batman thing that anybody could say.
I know. I was like, ooh, goosebumps. Yeah. And then he slowly walks out of the shadows to a bunch of teenagers pointing their fucking camera phones at him.
I thought they had knives.
No, one was just like recording him.
Oh.
And he's just like, he just stands there. Like, Batman doesn't do that.
He's instilling fear.
You know what's not scary? Watching a YouTube video of Batman, like, I don't know, dude. Batman would have thrown a batarang. Also, he doesn't have batarangs in this. He would have thrown a batarang at the phone. No, that's a knife.
He throws it like it's a batarang.
When does he throw that?
I think he throws it at... I think I saw him throw it. He goes like that, and he goes like... Whew.
No, he cuts the cable.
He does keep it in his chest, though.
Yeah, it's the chest piece.
It's a cool... It is actually... It looks really cool when he does it.
It looks cool. Anyway, he's just... Look, he just stands around a lot, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
And he walks very slowly, and he's very present. And that's what I was going to get to about the whole Moon Knight thing. You know...
That's a Moon Knight thing to do.
Moon Knight, and he says this a lot of times, and in the comic we're reading, because it's like an issue 1, the comic reintroduces you to Moon Knight for people who don't know who he is.
Right.
Like us. My first Moon Knight comic. When I read the first one, I thought it was whatever, and then I skipped to this.
Okay.
Moon Knight straight up tells you, Hawkeye makes fun of me because I wear all white. He thinks I should wear black, that way I can't be seen. But I don't care about not being seen. I want them to see me. I want them to know I'm here. And then in the very first Moon Knight issue, he goes to a club. He fucking knocks on the front door. He walks in and he goes, go get your boss. Tell your boss I'm on his way up to kick his ass. And he walks upstairs.
Literally does that.
He literally does that. And I'm sitting here going, what? That's you're Moon Knight.
Well, at this point, he lost his patience.
No, that's at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, he's like, I need to fucking go in. They're like, no. And he's like, I'm fucking going in.
Shouldn't Batman, like, sneak in?
You keep thinking about, like, this experienced Batman that already knows all this shit. This guy isn't it.
Okay.
And it made it very clear that he wasn't.
I'll give you a counter to the thing I just said. How about that? I saw this take on Twitter, and it makes perfect sense. Within the movie, Batman goes to the same place 3 times. The first time as Batman, he brute forces his way in, not very successfully.
Right.
Because at one point, there's a bunch of guns pointed at him. He could have died.
He got lucky.
Yeah. Penguin is like, just calm down and let's talk. Right. Second time he goes in as Bruce Wayne, and he realizes he finessed his way in because he went as not as Batman. He went as Bruce Wayne, and he was taken straight to Falcone because he's Bruce Wayne.
Learning experience.
Sure, that's fine. The third time he goes as Batman, and he's doing the sneaking around. Right? Cool. There's a whole little mini arc there, but I feel like it should have started out higher than knock knock. Batman's here. Do you see what I'm saying? And also, I
like that he makes mistakes. I like
that's not a mistake. That's
a
stupid.
mistake. Mistakes are stupid.
That is stupid. And okay, this is a Batman that's not too concerned about his identity either, because he goes in, he talks to the 2 guards, and he's like, "Do you know who I am?" And they're like, "I guess you're Batman." And then like the next day, how much time has passed? A day or 2? He goes as Bruce Wayne, knocks on the door, sees the same 2 fucking guards, and he goes, "Do you know who I am?" Like, bro, they're probably like, I'm having deja vu. Are you wait a second. Are you Batman? Hey guys, I think Bruce Wayne's Batman. Just got kind of like, let me cover up the top half of your face.
People don't fucking do that, though.
This is from the Jimmy Kimmel skit where he's just like, wait a second.
All right.
Anyway, I think he's a bad Batman.
I think he's supposed to be a bad Batman.
Like, I'm okay with Batman failing, and I think Batman Begins did that really well. But he's still not a bad Batman in Batman Begins. He's still an impressive Batman. He's fucking like sword fighting, and he's outsmarting everyone, and he does the whole Bruce Wayne thing good, and I'm fine with him not doing Bruce Wayne here.
Wait, isn't that why everybody hated Rey from Star Wars? Because she got real good at everything a little too quickly?
But I mean, I don't dislike Rey.
I don't dislike Rey either.
But there's a bottom. There's a floor.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I feel like the floor was too low, and anybody could have been Batman. I feel like this version of Batman it doesn't seem special.
And again, I think that's something I like.
Okay, let's talk about you were talking about thematically. He goes from vengeance to hope.
Yes.
That's fine.
Okay.
And I think that's clearly what the movie was intending to do, and it did it. I would argue, is Batman a symbol of hope?
Hang on, don't you love The Dark Knight?
Okay. In The Dark Knight, he knows that he cannot be a symbol of hope because he's the Dark Knight. He doesn't want to be Batman. He puts all chips in on Harvey Dent because Harvey Dent can be the White Knight. He can be the people that people can actually believe in because he's not a vigilante. And then by the end of the movie, he realizes he needs to be the hero that takes the blow and none of the credit. Does that sound hopeful to you?
Well, and then in the very next movie, they realize, well, that was a mistake.
Okay. By the end of the 3rd movie, when he saves Gotham from the nuclear bomb, now they make a fucking statue of him, and now he's a symbol of hope. But like, I feel as if Batman doesn't usually intend to be a symbol of hope. Now, don't get me wrong. Even in Batman Begins, he straight up says it. He goes, "People need hope," right?
Right.
But he also finishes that conversation going like, "I need to be a symbol of fear to instill fear in those who would think that they're not fearful. Or I forget what it says.
Though, you can be a symbol of hope for the good people and still instill fear into the people that are bad.
Look,
you're just not literally just known as, oh, the Batman, he's a fucking bad guy.
He's a bad guy.
Your boss is a bad guy.
There's something towards the end there, and the way that they kind of like, again, the cinematography and the way the film is made, it's made to kind of show Batman being a hero. He's carrying people, he's helping people, and that would be great if he actually saved the day, but he didn't. The whole city is fucked, and then this is juxtaposed, by the way, with a voiceover of Batman saying, the city is fucked, and crime's going to get worse, and there's going to be looting, and I've got a lot of work to do now. So I feel like the content of what's happening...
Yeah, so now he's going to be the Batman that we know.
Okay, thank you. I feel like the content is detracting a little bit from that. You know what I mean?
Maybe a little bit, but it wasn't...
And
I didn't see it as a bad thing.
For those reasons, that doesn't hit with me. Like, it doesn't hit me like, oh, here's Batman, here's a symbol of hope. Look how everyone's proud of him. Like, that seems like a Superman thing to do. And sure, of course Batman can save people. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, then that's fine. It's just like, they make fun of him being vengeance this whole movie. Like, he gets made fun of a lot.
I like that, actually. They just called him, hey, vengeance.
Yeah, because I guess he goes around being like, hey, I'm vengeance. But, like... that kind of takes away, like, the aura of Batman, where it's like, oh, we're just going to make fun of him now, like, for being moody and brooding, you know?
We do that in real life all the fucking time.
Batman isn't real in real life. If we lived in a world where Batman was real, we'd probably be looking up to him. We'd be like, yeah, man.
Yeah, he's out there. You're a symbol of hope.
Anyway. Do you want to talk? What can we talk about next? We're moving around a lot.
Do you want to talk about that character reveal that we weren't too fond of?
Let's do that next. Let's talk about Riddler and real quick.
Oh, yeah. Well, we haven't talked about Catwoman yet either.
Yeah. He's a fucking dweeb, the Riddler. And I like the character, but I cannot stand the whole anonymous hacker fanboy bit that he's doing with the camera. Do you know what I mean?
A little bit.
Like, it looks like he's trying to be TikTok tough guy cringe.
I think that's who his character was. He is.
But he's like a genius, though. But the part where he's just like, Gotham, and he's like moving his head around the frame, and
he's doing what he thinks is threatening.
But it's cringy.
To us, yes. To the people in that world, probably yes as well. But he's killing people, so that kind of...
Okay, but I don't want... TikTok cringe.
That's the world we live in.
Riddler. But this is a movie. Like, and I know
right,
a lot.
And it's going to take inspiration from the current times.
Yes, and this movie has a lot of, like, real world stuff. And I'll call out some stuff I love. You know, you've got the Black Mayor. There's also when Batman says something to Catwoman and she goes, "You're rich." Because Batman blames Anika for getting involved with crime. And he was like, that's what a rich person would say. Because if you think it's a choice for her to be there, it's not.
Right.
She's forced into it, basically. Her circumstances dictate it because this is Gotham City and it sucks. Love that. Again, the villains of this movie is QAnon, basically. But just because, like, that's the world we're living in doesn't mean I want a TikTok villain. You know what I mean? And the thing is, it's just that one bit when he's doing the thing with the camera because the rest of his character is great, I think.
And overall, he feels very threatening, even though he's not, like, a imposing person. And he even tells the Batman, he's like, yeah, I'm not physical. I can't do that stuff.
For sure. I love that. I like the funeral scene with the collar bomb.
That was a very good scene.
At first, I was like, oh, they're doing a collar bomb. Like, we've seen this a million times. But then I was like, you know, it's fine. It works. You know, they're pulling from real life situations. Mm-hmm. The collar bomb is a real thing. If you haven't, like, looked into the collar bomb
they're frightening
case, an amazing case. Like that, it's something that still isn't solved. The guy who was strapped into a collar bomb and then told to, like, rob a bank and they blew his fucking face off.
Yeah. And there's been many movies using that concept too. And
in the chat they're talking about
the Batmobile.
No. Well, they are talking about the Batmobile, but they're also talking about Bruce Wayne's cars. Bruce Wayne drives a '60s black Corvette Stingray in this movie, and that is one of my favorite cars. And I think it's beautiful. I love it in this film. It's also probably not the car a billionaire would drive because it's not that expensive.
Well,
But
Bruce Wayne, at least this Bruce Wayne seems to be like not really wanting to take in that billionaire role
sure.
yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he still drove the Corvette. You know what I mean? And maybe it was his dad's. You know, whatever. I'm pretty sure, like in Batman versus Superman, he drives a Jaguar or an Aston Martin from like the 60s, and equally
he's like a classic car guy.
Yeah, equally beautiful car, except that it's like way more expensive.
Yeah,
like
he's
worth
like a Jay Leno type when it comes to cars.
Yeah, worth like 20 of those of the Corvette. But I love the Corvette. I was like, I looked at Sable, I was like, that's my favorite car of all time. Like, if it's up there. Anyway,
you like classic muscle that much?
I love Corvette.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm on the fence with the newest one. It's rear engine. I don't want to get into it. This is off topic.
I like Japanese cars.
But
I'm a Tokyo Drift guy.
Oh, but the first Corvette Stingray in black. It's beautiful. Also, Batman is hugging the man with the collar bomb as it counts down to 0. That was stupid. The thing is, and I get it. He's out for every life.
Yeah.
It's all important to him. But let's be smart. The countdown's to 5, and the guy wearing the bomb is
still like in front of you, like in your face.
Well, he's also like, I'm going to die. I've made peace with it.
Yeah, as long as my family gets to live, that's fine.
If I rat them out, they're gonna go after my family, and we're all gonna die. So it's whatever. Batman should have ran off at that point. At 5 seconds left, run away,
like, cut your
get to
loss.
safety. Yeah, because a bomb explodes in Batman's face, and he's fine. Bottom half of his face, nothing, not a scratch. I'm like, okay, that was stupid. Anyway.
But that funeral scene was very good.
Oh, Blake, yes, I know the car you're thinking of, but Chris Tucker's black Stingray is the next generation Stingray. That's a 70s Stingray, and Bruce Wayne drives a 60s Stingray.
Arnaldo knows a lot about Stingrays.
Listen, they're both very beautiful cars, but they are different. They're not the same car.
Wait, is that the one that Chris Tucker... No, he doesn't blow up his car. He blows up somebody else's car.
I don't remember.
With all the C4 in the trunk. I'm thinking about a different car completely.
But it's a C3 Corvette compared to a C2 Corvette. It's a whole thing. No, but I like the funeral scene. That's good.
Yeah. Catwoman. How do you feel about this interpretation?
I thought she was great.
I thought she was good too. The romance with her and Bruce felt a little forced.
Okay, I meant to ask you this. Do they have chemistry?
Not really. It seems like, all right, it seems like she's, throughout most of the movie, she's way more into him and he's kind of like aloof.
Yeah.
Which,
that
was probably intentional.
Is she just using him?
That's possible too, knowing how Catwoman is.
She is. You're right. I couldn't tell you.
But it seemed like towards the end, he was kind of getting into her a little bit. But the chemistry with them together, I didn't really see it. I also don't know if it was really supposed to be there because it's not really a romance.
Well, here's the thing. It's in the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a big chunk of it. It's not like it's just 1-2 scenes. It's like they get like a good half hour together. Like, it's a lot of screen time.
Right.
And it's too much screen time for them to have zero chemistry. I love Zoe Kravitz in this. I think she did a great job. But like in her scenes with Batman, it's Zoe talking to a plank of wood. You know, and it might be Batman's character and it might be what's on the page.
I think it was the character because some of it was like kind of funny and I felt like it was scripted that way. Like when he's like totally oblivious. He's like, look at me. And he's like looking at her eyes and stuff. And she's like, and he's like, okay, those look good.
And the contact lens.
Yeah. Like stuff like that. So that kind of makes me feel like all of that was intentional and that he's not really supposed to, like maybe he's not good with women.
No, of course
he's a
not.
recluse.
No, of course not. He's not good with women. But if you're gonna try to sell me this romance, then I think by the end of the movie he needs to be into her. And I think
he was like kind of interested.
I didn't get that at all.
He was giving her like those like. It wasn't like to her though. It was like after she was like when she was leaving and he like looked back and like stuff like that.
Fleeting glances? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
It's not enough for a subplot in a big movie. Like. I'm sorry.
That was barely a subplot, though.
No,
it was just the character.
It kind of.
It was like character quirks, honestly. It wasn't part of the story in any way.
It's a lot of this movie is Batman and Catwoman together.
Yes, but not Batman and Catwoman together.
Pattinson's eyes did most of the acting in this movie, yeah, because he has not that many lines. Like, we're going to get to acting. There's a couple more things story-wise I want to talk about before we move on to some other things. That's going to take a lot less time anyway. I think there's a lot of twists in this movie that then get immediately undone, and that's a huge pet peeve of mine because it just feels like you're just filling for time. You know, there's a part where Batman and Gordon, He's with a bunch of cops, and the commissioner gets there, and the commissioner's like, he needs to get the fuck out of here. This is not okay. And then they're like, all right, give me a second. Let me talk to him. And then he's like, whispering to him, he's like, all right, here's what we're going to do. You're going to punch me, and then you got to get the fuck out of here. And he's like, okay, cool.
Well, that was the only way he was going to be able to get out of there.
Hold on. And then later, he's like, they've put an APV against you, whatever. And I'm like, okay, this got interesting. Now, all the cops, except for Jim Gordon, are after Batman. This is a whole nother wrinkle to this movie. I like where the plot's moving now. None of that stuck.
Well, that's because the Gotham City Police Department's corruption was exposed to the entire city of Gotham.
Very conveniently off screen. Like, that
was a plot point. What do you mean off screen?
No, it's not. You know why? Because
the Riddler intentionally did that.
Okay, hold on. Batman and Gordon talk about how, like, there's a reveal that all these cops are, like, crooked. And they're like, oh, we don't know who they can be. The next time we see Gordon, he's like, I already sussed them all out.
All right, the resolution to that happens off screen.
And he's like, all these cops are the good ones now. And also, they're not after you anymore. What the fuck? Like, how did that all happen conveniently off screen? Like, it's a setup and payoff. The movie set it up really well. Oh my God, the cops are after Batman now, and half of them are corrupt. And now we got to sort out the good ones, and now we can't trust anybody. But then immediately afterwards, they're like, actually, we can trust all these people, and they're not after you anymore.
I would assume the only ones that would move in to arrest Falcone were the good cops.
Sure, but like,
there wasn't that many cops. That
happened so quick. There was like 100 there. What do you mean?
It was like 50.
Oh my God! Now we're in we're back into counting how many people were in the screen.
There were less cops there than there were people in that little convention center. I'll tell you that.
They looked about the same. They're probably the same extras. All right, guys, these are your uniforms for today. Let's move into this set.
And you'll be paid $120 for today.
You'll be paid the day rate and not a penny more. And don't go eating craft services.
That's for the actors.
Okay, look, all I'm saying is, it's kind of like a quick fake out. It gets you excited for a minute, and then like we're going to take it away.
I can see where you're coming from for that, though.
Here's the second one. There's a part in the movie where there's a twist. Thomas Wayne actually wasn't this upstanding citizen. Actually, maybe he paid off a bribe and got somebody killed. Cool. Very next scene. Actually, no, none of that happened. So what's the point?
Well, it did happen.
It did not happen. So Alfred goes and says he went to Falcone. He asked for help to scare the guy. Guy dies, so Thomas Wayne was going to go. I'll get to that.
No, there's not an origin story.
Yes, there is. So
there isn't.
Yes, there is.
It's talked about. That's not an origin story.
Exactly. So Thomas Wayne is going to go to the cops, and they get him killed, right? So I have two major problems with that. Number one, the thing I just said. They just completely undid, set up an interesting thing, but actually, no, that's nothing. And so now we're back to square one, right? It's a waste of time. Second thing. I really don't like this trend of making Thomas and Martha Wayne bad. And it's newer, right? I've got some examples.
That's been going on like the past decade or so, though, right?
I have some examples.
Okay.
Batman Damned. Thomas Wayne is cheating on Martha. The Telltale Batman video game. Yeah, it was from like 5-6 years ago.
That was actually a good game, though.
He makes him a criminal. And then the movie Joker, where like the villain of the movie is Thomas Wayne, right? But Thomas Wayne is Batman's Uncle Ben. You know what I mean?
Right.
What if you made Uncle Ben a criminal? Defeats the purpose of Spider-Man. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, the reason Thomas Wayne needs to be morally upstanding, like, character, he needs to be perfect in the eyes of Batman, is because, like, that is what was robbed from
his
Batman.
His values are based off.
Yeah.
But
his parents were robbed from him. They were the perfect people.
But Thomas Wayne wasn't a villain in this. He made a bad decision.
Well, again, yeah, they undid it. But there's all this kind of like, we're going to put his morality into question. And yeah, maybe it's interesting, but we're going to undo it. But I'm telling you, I don't like it either way. Because Batman has to aspire to be his parents, but he can never be as good as his parents because he's not okay. Like, he pushes the line of what's okay and what's not okay, right? He's ultra violent. He's maybe kind of crazy.
He is crazy.
He pushes that boundary a lot, right? So, and he's very violent. So, like, he will never be his dad. He's never going to be Thomas Wayne, and he knows that. That is a defining characteristic of his character. So it's like, if you make him bad, to me, it's like making Uncle Ben bad. Defeats the purpose.
Okay.
No thoughts on that?
He wasn't bad in this movie, though, so... He wasn't.
Right, because they undid. It's a giant waste of time, I think, in the middle of the movie. Okay, I'm going to answer Philly in the chat. Philly and the J, who has not seen this movie, but for some reason stuck around for the spoiler section of it, wants to know if there's an origin story in this. And this brings up an interesting debate, because there is a lot of exposition via two newscasters on the TV. And I kind of hate how much screen time we spend just watching the news.
I think like every DC movie does that.
Okay.
Now that I'm thinking about it.
But not to... Okay, so here's the thing.
I'm gonna give you not an origin movie.
Yeah, okay, hold on. I'm going to give you an example that I think is really good, and then this I don't think is very good, right? So like the classic way of doing this is you show a newspaper, right?
Right.
And even then you're kind of like maybe the character should be talking about what's on the newspaper instead of just literally having to read the newspaper.
Are you talking about like the newspaper spinning on the screen?
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. This is the modern day equivalent of that, where it's like...
Yeah. Well, it's like it's a super quick way for them to like throw some exposition your way.
But they do a lot of exposition by just showing the newscasters. I feel like a lot was thrown in.
This movie does it a little better with that, though, in that like the newscasters are like most of the time they're showing something that like the Riddler leaked to the media.
But like,
and that's like that.
Here's
that is the story.
Okay, here's how I think a better movie would do it. The two detectives would be talking about it. They'd be like, "Fuck! Look what's on the news now. This happened," and we don't have to actually watch the newscasters telling. Like, watching the news is boring. I don't want to do that in a movie. You know? All right. So I was gonna give you an example of when I think it's done well. In BVS, there's a montage, and it's a bunch of news pundits, but it's not exposition. It's thematical questions that they're asking each other about what are the implications of having a superhuman god creature on Earth. What does that mean in terms of national sovereignty, in our place in the universe? Like, it asks a lot of ethical and thematic questions, and that is interesting. But if they were just telling us this is what's happening in the movie now, I'm like, well, that's boring. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, in that vein, to answer Philly's question, the newscasters tell you, oh, today's the 20th anniversary of Thomas and Martha Wayne, who died in a thing, leaving their only son orphaned, and yada, yada, yada. So it's kind of like...
it's a total of 30 seconds.
Sure, I'm saying, but it's in there. I'm saying it's in there.
It's no different from in Civil War when Spider-Man talks about, you know, when you have the abilities I have and you don't...
No, they dance around that there. Because he doesn't just sit there and say, well, you know, my uncle was taken from me, and then I got bit by a radioactive spider, and then this, and then that, and then it's not like he's just telling you the plot of like a movie that never happened.
They don't tell you how he became Batman in this.
Okay, sure. I'll give you that. Look,
all we know is that his parents were killed when he was young.
I'll be fair. Other than being like, oh yeah, and she was wearing pearls, like, it's in there is all I'm saying. So make of that what you will.
It's not an origin story.
I think that wraps up all my notes. Well, you have notes. What else you got on the story before we wrap this up? Because the rest is going to go quick, I think.
Not too much else involving the story. I do want to say that this movie, having as many villains in it as it does, it didn't feel like oversaturated with them in any way. Everybody had something to do.
It handled villains, I think, great. I think that's fine. Similar to the other Batman movies, The Dark Knight and stuff. Right. A lot of these same characters are in those movies. Mm-hmm. You've got the Falcones, you got the Maronis. You don't got Penguin, but you can interchange Penguin and Maroni for
you've got
purposes.
The commissioner that's always corrupt.
Commissioner. You've got some other cops. You got some fucking. You got the mayor. You got the fucking the main villain. So whether it be Joker, Riddler, Ra's al Ghul, yeah, Catwoman, like they're all in there, and their relations with each other works in such a way that it doesn't feel like it's all ham-fisted.
Right.
That's good. I like that.
This movie did a really good job with that. It didn't feel like overload or anything that. Yeah.
I really liked Penguin being like a lieutenant of Falcone.
Yeah, and then we kind of see his rise at the end when Falcone is, taken out.
He's murdered, right? That's all good. I like that.
Yeah,
I'll say.
And it's funny because right before that happens, like, you talked about seizing power, and Penguin's like, you know what? Maybe I will. Maybe I will like seize some power now that you're gonna be out of the way. And then he dies, and then
Oh yeah. Cinematography. We've kind of talked about it in passing. It's great. I think it's great. I really do like it. The cinematographer for this, I forget his name. He's very good.
Yeah, whoever was,
Apparently, they're kind of innovating a new way of filming where they film on digital and then they copy it over to film. and then they copy it back to digital or something.
Did Chris Nolan have a heart attack when he heard about that?
It's basically like a way of like giving that film stock kind of look.
Yeah, because it is a different look.
Yeah, without
all the headaches of
without
actually filming on film.
Yeah, with still using like digital cameras.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I'm not really
it's like a very convoluted way of having a filter.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
But it looks good.
I'm not going to claim to be an expert on camera technology and filming techniques in that sense. I know there's a big debate among cinematographers based on digital versus using film, and like the directors and the cinematographers that are in those camps will like die by that.
Chris Nolan.
Like, yeah, Chris Nolan's very much into film.
Yes.
Stock. And so is like Tarantino. Like they love big film stock, like 35 millimeter. The cinematographer who did Knives Out had to like convince Rian Johnson that this movie will look better on digital rather than film. And because Rian Johnson's kind of, he's one of those.
He's old school.
He wants to do film, and he had to be convinced. And then he was like, you know what? He was right. We were able to do certain things with digital. It's a slightly different kind of the way it shows colors. And look, again, I'm not going to speak on something I'm not an expert on. So there's plenty you can look up on that. Also, this movie implements a lot of stagecraft, which is what they're calling it now, which is the volume technology that they used on Mandalorian. So the cinematographer, again, whose name I don't have in front of me, he kind of pioneered that with Favreau on Mandalorian.
Okay.
So if you don't know, it's like a big room made up of LCD screens.
Yeah. It's almost like you're inside of not virtual reality, but like inside of like a video game rendered.
Yeah.
It looks really good. And if you've seen The Mandalorian, you've already seen it in action.
Or Book of Boba Fett.
Of Boba Fett.
They do it there too. So what they do is they create a set, like a setting.
I think they actually do it in a video game engine.
Like in an Unreal Engine or something. It's basically they make a video game stage, right? And they make it look good enough to where if you saw it in real life, you would believe, again, it's a background. Yeah. You're not really like studying it, but you would believe that it's real, and it looks real.
It looks significantly better than anything that like green screen and blue screen have done.
Well, a lot of the benefits are that it creates its own lighting. So you don't have to light to match what you're going to do in green screen. Mm-hmm. You just do it, and then that's it. You don't even have to light it with artificial lights. You just use the fucking screens, and it lights it for you perfectly.
Because it's doing the light, because the light is being rendered in the engine. Yeah.
The craziest thing about it, too, is that they have like a VR tracker on the cameras. So when the camera moves, the backgrounds move so that it looks perfect from the camera's perspective. But if you look at it from a different perspective, it looks weird.
So the camera's point of view is like, it's in the world.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Basically, the camera, and that's why they're using a video game engine, because as the camera moves, it's the same as if the player were moving in the video game, then the pictures of the background would be changing. And that's how they do it. And one of the benefits is that they can create and upload a new background in like half an hour, I think is what they were doing for Mandalorian.
Depending on, what they need to make.
So, and even if they wanted to change it, they're like, all right, we got the programmers and the artists, the programmers and the artists, they're going to change it, and we're going to have changes to the background done in an hour. Yeah. And then we just come back and we
maybe we want like the sun a little bit higher. Stuff like that.
So, well, that's the thing. Sunrises and sunsets, it's something that you literally cannot film. Because the sunset, if you ever watch a sunset, it happens in like 5 minutes. Yep. Like by the time it's like by the horizon, 10 minutes later, it's gone.
It's very quick.
So you just can't film something unless if you do it in one take. And that's it. Like you get one shot at it.
Unless you're going to be doing it day after day, and that's expensive. Yeah.
If you ever see the movie Roma,
no.
They do that. They go out to like a beach and they film something in like one shot.
Damn.
And they're like...
That was probably stressful.
It was Alfonso Cuarón, and he was like, oh no, we just had that one shot, and now that was it. Because of the waves and the way the shot was set up, and it's a long take, and the sunlight and stuff like that. It was just kind of like,
if they messed anything up, that's going to be in the final product.
That's the movie, and it was a huge gamble, but it's really good. So that's amazing. I think this is the first major film to do it. A bunch of movies back before I had been doing various kinds of what's called rear projection, which is kind of an old technology. It's how they used to make movies like back before green screen. They would just project a different movie behind the actors and they act in front of it.
Oh, really? A movie I like a lot. It's not a good movie. Have you heard of Kung Pao Enter the Fist?
Yeah.
He does that. they put on an old like kung fu movie and he just films himself in front of it.
Yeah.
And it's honestly hilarious.
I mean, that's how they did a lot of the Batman 66 that we just watched. A lot of that's rear projection. When they were on a boat, the scenes on the boat.
Yeah.
It's just a screen playing water running behind them, and then someone literally with a hose just kind of spraying them every now and then.
I love that.
But here's the thing. It looked real.
Yeah.
Like, it looked good.
It looked good.
And it doesn't take that much, like, crazy technology to do it. Obviously, this is a step way beyond, but...
Yeah, but I think that
Yeah.
it pays off, like, quality-wise.
Yeah, and so it's definitely something we're going to be seeing in a lot more movies now. Like,
Yes.
it's permeating past just The Mandalorian. Like, that was, like, obviously the thing that kind of rocked the industry, and now everyone's going to start doing it.
Has Marvel started doing it yet with their shows?
I don't know, because they all co-own the volume and that technology.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But it seems like a lot of, like, at least with the behind-the-scenes stuff, they've been
They
doing a lot of
haven't
stuff, like,
yet.
on location.
Yeah.
Or building actual sets.
Yeah.
So
we'll see. I like the noir look, film-wise, the color palette, all that I thought was really good.
Like, visually, this movie, it looks stunning.
Yeah.
It really does.
Again, I think I would have made some tighter edits, but that's not,
Yeah.
whether it looks good, it looks good.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily cinematography, so...
It's editing. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just, I'm not going to just sit here and be like, all right, let's talk about the
Yeah.
editing. You want to talk about the actors?
Yeah.
Who are your standouts?
My standouts, I was surprised by how much I liked Robert in the role. And again, this is because, I don't know. I think it's the whole inexperienced Batman thing. He kind of sells it for me. Like, it seems like he is in over his head, but he's like, I gotta fucking do this.
I will give you that. I completely agree there.
So, like, I think he sells that pretty well. And my other standout, I loved Andy Serkis as Alfred. That was great.
He was really good. I think my two favorites are Zoe Kravitz and Andy Serkis.
Okay.
I think they were doing a great job. Paul Dano did pretty good. Again, I hate certain parts of his character.
Right.
But I think he did really, really well.
Oh, Colin Farrell's Penguin was fucking great too.
I was going to talk about that. Yeah, Colin Farrell. Amazing, actually. I really enjoyed him. I thought he was the most fun character in the movie.
I'd like to see more of him, honestly.
Yeah, give me more Colin Farrell. I'll take a Colin Farrell spinoff as the Penguin. Do Gotham again, but this time it's Colin Farrell. Here's something, though. The prosthetics. It looks great. That's not the question.
Right.
My question is, why? Like, why do you cast Colin Farrell in this role as the hideous Penguin?
Maybe they just thought his audition was just that good?
Here's the thing. I kind of know the answer to this. Originally, they were just going to, like, do a handsome Colin Farrell, and then they were like, wait a second. Let's try this makeup. And then they eventually got to this point. But for me...
I think it was like 4 hours of makeup every day, too.
I believe it. But it looks incredible.
It does.
But it brings up this interesting debate where I'm like, why are you casting handsome actors to play ugly characters? I don't mean to be, like, condescending.
Oh, yeah, hunt down those ugly actors and give them some more jobs.
Look, all I'm saying is the conventionally not as handsome actors, they need roles too. Like, what the fuck?
That's true. That's true.
I feel like it's a trend because they did it with Christian Bale in Vice. He played Dick Cheney. And
yeah.
The transformation is great, and he really did look like Dick Cheney. That's the thing.
He looked too much like Dick Cheney.
Right? But what makes you pick Christian Bale other than the fact that he's an incredible actor?
I think they're just doing it on his acting. I'd like to think that. Like, maybe he was just that fucking good in the role.
He is good, and he was nominated.
Yeah.
It was just, but that's like, he might have won. Oh, he won, I think.
He won?
He won that Academy Award, I think, for... Remember, he gave an acceptance speech. Jared Leto, also in the House of Gucci.
I haven't seen that.
He plays a Gucci member, and he's like in a ton of makeup. Same thing. It's the same fucking thing.
He doesn't look like Jared Leto.
He does not look like Jared Leto.
Jared Leto is also the kind of actor that will also like do insane transformations to his own body for a role. What's the movie where he plays the guy that killed the Beetle? Is it called like Chapter or something? It
just makes me wonder, like, why not find the actor that looks the part? And I feel like to answer my own question is to get the fucking name on the poster. That's why.
Yeah.
Like, they wanted to get Colin Farrell, selling the movie, doing the interviews.
He was on Hot Ones.
Right. Because he's very handsome, and he's very charming.
He's very Irish.
And he has a beautiful little accent. And people love him. People love Colin Farrell.
He's great. He was terrible as Bullseye, but
yeah,
he's
he's
a great
fantastic. You know, and his accents are on point. Like he can do any. Like his American is great, and he's always doing it.
I love him as the Penguin too. I didn't think I was gonna like him in that role that much.
And it's fine. Again, like the counter is he's great in the role. It just makes me question like, why are we doing this? It's almost like when they make like an animated movie and they have to hire like a big name, even though there are probably voice actors that could do it better. Right. You know what I mean? I'm not saying someone could have done it better, but someone could have looked like the Penguin and gone and been the Penguin. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we have our
Robert Pattinson. Is that where you're going to go?
I mean, I talked about Robert Pattinson. You haven't.
I haven't talked about. I thought he was just fine. I didn't think it
like
was
not good,
great.
not bad, just like eh.
I don't look. What did he doesn't have very many lines, I don't think. I think it's a lot of him like just standing there. He stands a lot. This movie's a lot of Batman just standing there.
I do think, and Blake actually said this in the chat earlier, that he does a lot of acting with his eyes in this movie. He really does.
Okay, I'm not going to downplay that. I'm really not, because there is something to that. Mm-hmm. It's physical acting. It's all part of the role. But a lot of what he's doing in this movie is just kind of detective banter with Gordon. Right. Which is why I said earlier, I just feel like he's a regular cop in this. I don't feel like this is a Batman movie so much as it's just two cops sort of solve a case. You know what I mean? Like, he stands there a lot, he reads the lines, and it's dark and serious, and he's Batman, and he's Batman, and he's doing a great job at that. But like, where's the real acting? You know what I mean? And there's one scene where he really gets to do some stuff. It's with Alfred. But even then, I'm like, I want a little more of that.
When in the hospital?
Yeah.
That was good.
That was good, but there wasn't enough of it. No, like, that was it.
That's not Robert's fault, though.
I'm not blaming Robert, but I don't think he was given enough to do in his own movie.
I can agree with that.
There is a lot of, and this isn't like the other Batman movies where we go, not enough Batman in this Batman movie. It's not a Batman-centric movie.
There's a lot of Batman. There's almost no Bruce in this movie.
Sure. There's some, but yeah.
Some.
I just feel like he's not given enough to do acting-wise, and I think he's a good actor. He's done a bunch of indie stuff. He's really proven himself. I thought he was a fine choice. I just don't think he really gave us a performance for me to go, man, Robert Pattinson.
No, I don't think he's getting any awards or anything like that. No.
I don't even think he deserves a conversation like he's getting. And it's, again, not his fault. And I think part of the reason, I don't think the ending is satisfying. What is he doing at the end of the movie, acting wise? Again, he kind of
acting wise, not too much because he wasn't given it.
That's what I'm saying. Again, you have this final confrontation with him and Riddler. What does he do? He just stands there and he kind of looks off, and he is having to do a lot of acting with his face.
He sells the anger pretty well there, actually.
Okay, sure. But he's not given any dialogue.
No.
And so there's only so much an angry, brooding Batman can do.
There's a lot of room for growth with that in both the character and Robert Pattinson filling in the role. And it's something where if they decided to move forward with this, which it kind of seems like they are going to,
right? It's
something that I'd look forward to checking out.
That'd be my top one in a sequel. I need a lot more from Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
In the script. He needs stuff to do because he's a good actor, and I would love to see him do the role. Just go and be, immerse yourself, and it doesn't seem like a performance that required any rehearsing. He's just kind of here are your lines for the day. Stand on the X, say the line. It's a riddle. The answer is this. Cool. Next.
The answer is justice.
It's justice. What are the other ones?
Justice. I don't remember the other.
It doesn't matter. Anyway,
there was 2 more.
Look, I just wasn't impressed. Action. You want to talk about the Batmobile chase? People love it.
Really? I thought it was fine.
People love it. I think it's bad.
The Batmobile chase, though, is one of the problems I had with the movie because of all the fucking collateral damage that isn't addressed at all.
How much collateral damage was there? There was that one tanker that kind of falls over and he drives through it.
Explodes and causes, I think, another one to explode. And there's people on that highway, so they're all fucking dead.
There you go. So, okay, and we didn't talk about this, but this Batman really sells the I don't kill. And you shouldn't kill either.
Yeah, he does.
And I like that. That is a core element of Batman.
And to be fair to him, in that chase scene, he was not the cause of any of the collateral damage.
Okay, sure.
But
is that where you're going to say, Batfleck, he kills a bunch of people in his chase, But he's kind of like,
He's
whatever.
like, oh, that guy fucking died.
Yeah, whatever. He's in my way. I'm going to run him over. It's not my problem.
Yeah.
Like,
whereas this one,
I get that. Like, I totally get that complaint.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like, and it is kind of sometimes a defining trait of Batman, and I'm glad they did it. It's also kind of like, again, the third act of the story focuses on these like 50 people. I've upped it to 50 to make you happy. They focus on these 50 people when the whole city's fucked. I just thought there was going to be so much more.
The whole
but anyway,
city is already fucked, though. They can't do anything at that point. His plan already
worked. What an optimistic film.
You can't save everybody, but you can fucking try.
Okay. Choreography was good.
Choreography was pretty good.
Here's some things I really don't like. The fights are fine. It's good. It didn't blow me away. It's not the warehouse scene. You know what I mean?
No, there was no like huge epic fight scene. The fights that we got, though, felt raw.
Okay.
And a lot of movies are like going more of the raw route with fighting these days rather than like super like choreographed and like clean looking, you know?
I didn't like that car chase at all. I don't know why people are like loving it.
I thought
it was
music
boring.
in the car chase.
Yeah, that was fine. The thing is, they were just kind of both stuck in traffic a lot. It was kind of like, you know,
Penguin caused all the collateral damage because of the traffic.
Penguin and Batman are just stuck in traffic. That's what that scene was. And I'm like, are you going to drive around?
The car chase is almost a little too realistic in that sense.
I know. I felt like, oh, we're stuck on I-4 right now. Like, this is too real. This movie is too real when it should be a little bit escapist, you know? Cinematography-wise, they filmed a lot of that with the cameras locked into a car. And it gives you a lot of the perspective of them instead of like a third party kind of floating around camera, you know? Look, I get it.
It's good for certain things.
I get it. I don't like it.
It was nice seeing like the Penguin kind of like panicking while he was driving. No, that I liked a lot.
In a car chase scene, those shots should be in it, but it shouldn't be all of it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
It also made it a little difficult to know like where they were in relation to each other. Like, how far away is Batman?
Batman was a bit behind.
Like, because Penguin's just like looking at the rearview mirror, and you got that
you
angle
see
of
Batman
him.
kind of like go like that, and he's like, I lost him, and then
I don't know. Look, I think it's fine.
I got you.
I didn't think it was that good. I don't understand what the big hoopla is.
Here's the thing, though. I think it was very well acted by Colin Farrell. It was a very well acted car chase.
That's what you want in your car chase is good acting. No. The score. You really like it?
I like it a lot.
I think it's too subdued.
I think
it's mostly just kind of that drum and that dun.
I think it did a really good job. Like, here's the thing. None of it was like an earworm for me. None of it was like catchy. I'm not like humming the tune or anything, but I felt what the score did for this movie enhanced it a lot. And at the end of the day, that's what a score is meant to do. And it does its job incredibly well. I do like the main theme. The main theme is good.
I might have to listen to it again because I'm like, every time I put it on, I just hear that little drum part.
There's a little bit of like gothic vibes in there.
It's very subdued, and that is very Michael Giacchino.
Yes,
and I'm
a big fan of his.
I think look, he's very talented, and a lot of his scores work really well. I just think it's not I don't think it's for me. I would prefer a score with a lot more themes in it, like a lot more movement.
Okay, so like Danny Elfman.
Not that much. Too much. Rein it back. No, you know,
too far in the other direction.
You're John Williams, you're Hans Zimmer. Sometimes I think John Williams is too thematic. It's all little leitmotifs and stuff.
Yeah,
and
in the franchises he does though, that like works really well.
It can, yeah. What do you think about the Nirvana music? There's like two of them, right?
Yeah, I like it.
In a Batman movie, I don't know why I don't like it.
I think it suits it very well.
I'm okay with it. I'm gonna give you that. I just feel like I don't know, man.
It just seemed weird to you.
It doesn't feel like Batman. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's
is
like
it just the fact that there was licensed music at all? Is that what did it?
It's like an internal thing where I'm like, even if it's like the master of like using needle drops, James Gunn, even if he did it, I'd be like, it should be more orchestral. I feel for Batman. You know, that's just me.
Maybe a little bit, but like I don't know. I thought it. Maybe it doesn't fit like the classic Batman very much, but this Batman, it felt very appropriate.
Yeah, because he's just a dude. He's just a detective.
For now.
Oh, God. Okay. Also, Matt Reeves like based this character of this version of Batman off of Kurt Cobain.
A little, maybe a little bit.
No, he said it. That's
no, I mean
me.
like it translates to screen a little bit. It's not like I didn't look at it and go, "That's fucking Kurt Cobain." No, but
he looks like Kurt Cobain.
Oh, the way his hair is and shit. Yeah.
It's like he's supposed to kind of be Kurt Cobain.
Philly, you hate Nirvana. What?
Let's move on.
Without them, my favorite genre of music would not exist.
I think the music's fine. It's just it's not for me, I guess. I thought it's well scored. The music plays a very good part. It's what I would expect from Giacchino. It's not
your preference.
I talked to a few friends who were like, "Oh, this is my favorite Batman everything." I'm like, "No. I don't think this is my favorite Batman anything. I think there's a lot of good stuff here. Like, again, the music's really good. Mm-hmm. I don't think it holds a candle to any of the Hans Zimmer scores, you know?"
We know how I feel about the Hans Zimmer scores.
Wait, we do? You don't like them?
It's not that I don't like them. It's that they don't really stand out. At least the Batman ones, they don't stand out too much to me.
What about the BVS one? BVS, I think...
All right, the BVS one was good.
The BVS score is underrated because a lot... When you ask someone about BVS, they're not going to get to score. They're going to be like, "Oh, yeah, Martha, blah." Cool. We're not talking about Martha. The score is criminally underrated. Hans Zimmer went all out.
Yeah, he did. He did a good job with that one.
That's a score that made him go, "I think I'm done with superheroes now." And then he came back. But
I don't know, something about this one I just like, I don't know, it speaks to me more.
Okay, sure. Costumes. Let's talk about the bat suit.
I like the suit. Like the regular bat suit, I enjoy it. I think it looks good. Okay. I think it looks good specifically on him. Okay. I think it would look weird on a bigger person.
I think Matt Reeves said something like he wanted kind of a skinnier guy. He doesn't want like a big...
Like a huge like...
Yeah. And it's kind of like, okay, sure. Again, I just feel like he's a regular guy. I don't think he... Okay.
But like this bat suit, it looks good on him.
The bat suit I didn't like at first, and I'll tell you why. I felt like they were doing what they could while avoiding what anything else had done before. You know, in terms of like the Nolans and the Snyders and this. You know what I mean? If it's like, this is just the bat suit that's not Ben Affleck and it's not Christian Bale.
It's like what Sony did with The Amazing Spider-Man.
Maybe.
Sort of.
They're like, we have to do something
we gotta
different.
do something different, like different enough.
Yeah. And that's just like, it's not its fault so much because, again, this is another fucking Batman reboot. We've got so many of these that it has to differentiate itself.
Right.
So here we are again. We need something, you know, the ears got to be, we did short last time. We got to go long this time. You know what I mean? So it grew on me, though. It grew on me because in motion, in the lighting, it looks tangible. You know what it looks like? The Arkham Origins suit.
And that's my favorite Arkham suit.
In the Arkham Origins suit, you can see that there's like shoulder pads and knee pads.
It's like, it's clearly like it's armored.
Yeah. It looks like he ran to Home Depot and put this thing together.
Yeah, it's armored with stuff that he like put over it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like that, especially for being like an early Batman. It's his second year or whatever.
Yeah.
Cool. I hate the cowl. I hate it.
Really?
I think it's bad. It's so leathery. And that's...
I think like the neck thing was a little weird, but...
I'm okay with the neck thing because in order for him to like have neck protection and also be able to move his neck, he needs a bit of a collar.
That otherwise you'd have the issue that all the other movies had where it's like...
They're kind of stiff, right?
Like moving their whole fucking body around. Yeah, I get it.
Because you look at like Christian Bale, the Dark Knight suit, the neck is really thin so that he can move his neck around, but then it also looks weak. Like he's going to get hit. And so this one's got the collar.
Yeah, the Dark Knight suit is like, eh.
I come and go on it, yeah.
I like the Batman Begins suit.
I do too, but it's not good enough. Like it feels like it could have been tailored a little bit better.
Yeah.
You know, it feels thick in some places and rubbery in other places.
But as far as live action goes, this one might be my favorite live action suit.
Oh, no. Any of the Batfleck ones are better, I think. And I don't hate this one again. I don't like the cowl.
I think the BVS one is a second for me.
That one's good. The cowl is a leathery Adam West mask, and you can't convince me otherwise. The stitching is in all the same places. The nose is exactly the same. The face panel.
That on purpose?
I think they did because it's not. It can't be coincidence. You look at how the nose is stitched.
Like that's their way of being like, oh, we're paying homage to. Which, again, you know what? Okay,
sure.
All right.
I just don't like it. I think it looks bad. But again, you can't do Ben Affleck's. You can't do Christian Bale's.
No.
How are you going to differentiate this?
And if you make the ears too long, if you make the ears too long, it's going to look stupid in live action.
Yeah, those kinds of things
like
look
if you
good
did the
on
Arkham Asylum suit in live action, that'd look bad.
That only looks good in like comics, like drawings.
It doesn't even look that great in Arkham Asylum.
It really doesn't. They get shorter, more realistic later.
Yeah.
What's up with the little rods on his gauntlets? I could have swore they were going to have an explanation for that because it kind of like, it's weird. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Kinda. I'm trying to think of it. I need to see like a picture.
They're like silver rods that he has on his gauntlets. And I was like, this suit seems to be kind of very tangible and realistic. He's going to pop those things out and throw them at people. No, they're just there.
Maybe it's just like part of the construction of it.
I don't know. He doesn't have batarangs. What's that all about? Are you going to tell me next movie?
Maybe.
Okay. Here's a legitimate complaint I have. I haven't mentioned it up until now. His cape doesn't do anything. He doesn't glide with it. It's just...
No.
So why does he have a cape then? To be edgy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, I mean, and it's one of those things where it's like, Batman gliding with his cape, did it ever really make sense?
It's a core element of the Batsuit. How does Batman traverse? How does he get around?
The Batmobile.
He grapples and glides. Grapples and glides. Before 1989...
He does use a grappling hook quite a bit in this movie.
He does grapple a lot. That's fine. Grapple and glide, that's how he gets around places.
Right.
That's how the video game works, right?
Yeah.
Before 1989, it was rope and glide, right? Mm-hmm. But from the first time we see Batman in 1939, he is swinging and gliding. That's what he's doing, right? It is kind of a core element. And in this, his cape is just kind of like, I don't know, I'm emo?
Yeah.
Like,
but
what?
there was also only one instance in this movie where he would have had to, and then they used that squirrel suit, which I didn't really like.
Yeah.
But it was a very short scene. It far from ruined anything for me.
Okay, it was
a goofy looking scene.
It's very stupid, I think. And it brings into question, are you Batman or are you Squirrel Man? Because that's a squirrel suit. And that's a real life thing. Maybe that's why he was going for it. He's like, Bat Glider isn't real. But then why are you doing Batman? That's the whole reason.
Well, then there's other elements of this movie that are still like comic book like and fantastical also.
What?
Like, let's see. That unnamed Arkham guest that we had that looked very...
Okay, let's get to that in a second.
Not normally scarred.
But then why does he call himself Batman then? It's just the ears then at that point. If he doesn't have a whole
bats scare
wing
people.
thing, I don't... Look, man, there's a point in this movie. I didn't mention it in the story, but it's a huge thing for me. The climax of the film is that Batman is dangling off a ledge and a gun gets pointed to his head and he's like, fuck it, I guess I'm gonna get shot in the head now. What, like, Batman, that's his bread and butter. Like being on a ledge, no problem, he's gonna jump off, glide around, grapple behind, boom, kick the guy. Like, why is that the thing that they made like this is what's gonna get Batman in trouble?
Wait, the point where he was gonna get shot, was that at the end when he was like fucking weak as shit? And
but he's there was two instances where he's just dangling off the ledge and he can't do anything about it. He can't, despite being strong, I guess he's, again, regular detective. He can't pull himself up. He has a grappler. He can't grapple his way somewhere else. They're indoors. There's plenty of places he could have probably gone. Right. It's not like he's on the edge of a building like before when he used a squirrel suit.
Yeah, because I was like at the edge of like a almost skyscraper, high rise at least.
So, you see what I'm saying? I'm just like, it just seemed like a really pathetic, this is the climax. And then Catwoman saved him. Cool. Whatever. I just, like, if Batman had 30 guns on him, I'd be like, okay, this is a sticky situation. For Batman, specifically. If someone were about to reveal his identity, which we didn't talk about, huge kind of weird fake out. That was the third thing that was, like, faked out.
Yeah, I didn't have an issue with that one, because that one genuinely subverted my expectations.
Let's go one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Why is putting Batman on a ledge the thing that's like, oh, this is good. This is what's gonna do him, and this is what gonna make the audience sit on the edge of their seat. It just made me go like, why is Batman in this situation?
Yeah, that wasn't the best decision for them to do.
Thank you for admitting that. Batman would use his fucking cape to glide off, and if he hasn't invented his cape glider, because maybe in the next movie he's like, man, the squirrel suit sucks. Maybe I can use this fucking cape that I've been wearing this whole time for no reason.
You have to make the cape a lot bigger.
Also, in when they redid his kind of like year one thing, it's called 0 year. He doesn't have a cape because he hasn't invented that yet. That makes sense. Don't just wear a cape for fun.
So maybe they just shouldn't have had him had a cape in this movie, and that would have solved that issue for you at least.
Maybe, but then he wouldn't look like Batman.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Whatever. Anyway, so it's implied that Riddler knows Batman's true identity.
It's implied, but upon thinking about it, it would also be ridiculous that he would have known.
Why? Riddler often finds out Batman's true identity. He doesn't reveal it because it doesn't satisfy the puzzle, the riddle.
Yeah, but immediately upon meeting...
Look, the movie did it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
I know.
Like...
No, during the movie, I was like, oh, man, does he know who he is? But that when he was like, oh, man, Bruce Wayne, the only one we didn't kill.
Yeah.
And then even Batman's like,
It was a really weird scene because it was another part where I was on the edge of my seat because I'm like, oh, here we go.
Right.
This is a wrinkle. I didn't see this coming. This is really early to put
his identity out there.
Yeah. And again, like what I was talking about the ledge, that's not an interesting... dangerous situation to put Batman in. This
one
where
was.
Batman
yes.
has to decide, does he keep his identity a secret?
Or does he kill someone?
Or does he fucking like take... Yeah, like what are the questions here that you're asking? This is very interesting. Only to find out Paul Dano, the Riddler, is just kind of talking about how he resents Bruce Wayne because he's the rich orphan who got all the attention while he and so many other orphans were just kind of like starved at the orphanage, abandoned by the Waynes. It's a good 5 minutes of you going... Wait, does he know that Batman is Bruce Wayne? And Batman himself is like, wait a second.
Does he know that I'm...
Yeah. He's like squinting. He hasn't said anything yet. He doesn't want to confirm or deny
he's
either.
like, he's trying to like keep his fucking mouth shut.
Which brings me back to like, he just doesn't say anything. He gets away with this whole scenario by just being quiet, by just... could have stayed home.
It does make for a good like tense situation, and it does bring us, again, some good physical acting with Robert Pattinson. But I get it. You want him to do more like regular acting. You want to see more of...
I want there to be a payoff to this situation that they set up. Again, it's just another thing that they undid immediately after they did.
Well, they never really did it, though. They implied it.
They strongly implied it. Also, Batman is still stupid because he's in that apartment and he finds that carpet tool. And the guy's like, oh, yeah, that's a carpet tool. And Batman's like, no shit.
Well, I mean, not everybody's going to...
I knew what that...
I didn't know what that was.
It's the thing they used to fucking put... I mean, you saw the movie.
I had seen it before, but I didn't know what it was used for.
I'll give him that, like, he wouldn't know that that's a clue. But it's also the Riddler.
Also, like, remember, Batman's not a working class man.
That's true. He didn't know a power tool.
He was probably like, what is a strange device?
Well, he knows. He's a good mechanic. He built the Batmobile. Do you like the Batmobile? We're talking about costumes.
I do like the Batmobile. I don't think Philly liked the Batmobile.
I don't like the Batmobile.
I liked it overall.
It's just a car.
That's fine.
I don't think it's that fine. I think it... Look.
All right. The BVS Batmobile was a lot better.
And I'll give you, like, that is 20 years on.
Right.
And he built the best Batmobile he could.
I did not like the Nolan Batmobile. I don't like the Tumbler.
I love the Tumbler.
That's literally like a military tank that he got.
Yeah, but it's cool. No, it's not literally a military tank. They purpose built it. It's
a prototype military tank.
But it looks like Batman. It looks like something Batman would have.
It was already a tank. All he did was turn it black.
I know, it's cool. Well, okay. I just think it's just a car, and like that's fine that early Batman has just a car.
And we don't really see him use it too often in this movie anyway, so
it's bulletproof. It's got some armor, and it's got the fucking.
It's a bulletproof car.
It's got the turbine thing in the back, and bajoo.
It seems like a work in progress. It seems like I feel like this Batman's Batmobile, like it's like a project for him that he's going to continuously tinker with.
Sure, it looks like Kit. And I think they based it off. They didn't base it off.
Knight Rider?
They based it off of. They based it off of Christine, that killer car in that movie. Is that what that movie's called, Christine?
Christine, yeah.
There's like a killer car in that, isn't there?
Yeah, the car is called Christine.
Oh, okay. I'm not super familiar with it.
It's a relatively famous Stephen King story.
Yeah. I know. I haven't seen it. Anyway, I didn't think it was that special, and I feel like Batmobiles are like. They're supposed to be cool and special, and a lot of people like it, and that's fine. Look, that's a preference thing, I guess. Last thing to talk about is this. Why did you say this is not sequel bait?
Because Matt Reeves said it wasn't. He said
he's wrong.
he made the movie.
So
he said that this isn't for any like plot moving forward or anything. This is literally just like he exists in this world. If someone else wants to use him. Or if he wants to use him, if he wants to.
Who's someone else? He has his own universe. I guess he
has his own universe. If he wants to use Joker in the future, or even just like show him again, like, yeah, he exists. That's not a problem.
Okay,
if they go and make him like the fucking villain in the next movie, yeah, I'll be upset.
So what did you think about that design then? We barely see it, but...
We barely see it. That's the thing. It looked like it was kind of going for the comic book look a little bit, but I don't know, because we don't get a super good look at it. We see the scarring on his like smile and stuff,
and he has like a mohawk. I think
he almost looked CG in a weird way.
So fucking weird. I need to see pictures of it. Like, I don't. It happened so fast that I was like, "What the fuck is that?" And I'm like, "That can't be the Joker. They're not. They wouldn't."
For a split second, I thought it was gonna be Two-Face. I'm like, "Wait,
me too."
Why would Harvey Dent already be like Two-Face?
I thought it was Two-Face, and I was like, "That'd be stupid if they're skipping." Two-Face requires a lot of build-up.
Yeah.
So
That's the thing. The Joker doesn't require build-up. The fact that he exists in the asylum, that's not a big deal to me.
The fact that they showed it and it was that stupid and cringy. Please, like, we had a Joker who had a questionable design in Jared Leto, right?
Questionable is putting it lightly.
Design-wise, Jared Leto, I like 50% of it. So I don't like his tattoos.
I think I like the idea of it. I don't like the execution like at all, really.
I love the idea of Joker just being like a mob boss because that's what he settled into. And he's got a fucking alligator skin purple jacket. And he's kind of like I like that. And I think Jared Leto would have done he probably did do a good job, but
we didn't see any of it.
We didn't see it. It was edited and it was chopped up to bits so that it doesn't play well at all. And his first real opportunity to kind of be the Joker was in Justice League, like earlier,
and it was really good
last year, and that was pretty good. And whatever. My point is, for people that thought that was like questionable and cringy, this is 10 times worse. I'm sorry, like it's weird, hilarious.
It's weird, and it's one of those things where it's like a part of me is interested in seeing it, but not right now. Right now.
And it's like that means that there are currently 3 different Jokers running around.
Yeah.
Which is it's funny. That's a plot of
And this Joker was played by the guy from Eternals.
I wrote it down.
The guy that played Druig. Who, I mean, I liked his acting.
No, he just tells a weird joke and then they both laugh at each other. Like,
no, I don't mean in this.
Oh, Barry Kogan. Oh, you mean as an actor?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I thought that's the weirdest. It really takes me out of the movie.
I think it would have been better if they put somebody else. Like Victor Zsasz would have been cool.
Yeah, some minor punk.
Yeah, but
okay. And then this brings up the topic: like, if you're doing another gritty, down to earth Batman, what villains are you gonna do? You know what I mean? I mean, we alluded to this a little bit, but like
your options are a little limited because Batman's villains are all a little like out there.
Yeah, and also like the grounded ones, Nolan did those. You know what I mean?
And they're all just mob bosses.
They basically are all mob bosses. I think the most out there one he did was Bane, and he did kind of bring it down to earth. Ra's al Ghul. Ra's al Ghul. Oh, and they worked around the Lazarus pits as being something in his head. You know, like the idea, like, because for a second, I remember in Dark Knight Rises, I was like, oh my God, did they bring him back to life? And it's all like a vision. You know, I'm like, oh, that's how they worked around it. But,
I think the Lazarus pits themselves are cooler.
Exactly. Me too. This is not a universe that can have Lazarus pits, though.
We don't know that yet, though. We haven't seen enough of it.
I guess.
It's one of those things where it's like, I think there still needs to be a chance given before we write off this whole universe.
All right.
You know?
All right, well.
I think it's an okay introduction to something that has the potential to be very interesting.
Not the Joker.
No, I'm not talking about the Joker.
That was bad. And I'm
talking about just like this iteration of Batman.
You know what it reminded me of? Oh my God. It's the same thing, actually. Reminded me of Carnage at the end of the first Venom. It's literally the same thing. He's in jail. The guy next to him is like, there's going to be... What does he fucking say?
He said there's going to be carnage.
There's going to be carnage. And they put him in like the weirdest fucking wig.
They did make him look a lot better in the actual movie.
Sure.
Granted. That movie was still shit.
Right. And that's kind of my point. They're going to have to do something like that if they're going to put this Joker in the movie. They're going to have to redesign it a bit.
That's probably why they barely showed him.
Also, apparently, they had a full design. Like everything.
Like planned out?
Yeah. No. And they just didn't show it at the end of the day. But like it's out. Like it exists. and I'm dying to see it.
I'd be interested to see what it actually looks like.
Oh my God. I'm out of stuff to say. I don't know about you. I wanted this to be way shorter.
No, I think I'm good. This was a 3-hour movie.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for 3 hours.
Wow.
It's too long.
Yeah, no, I think we've pretty much covered everything.
Still really long. This is too long.
Well, we had a lot of discourse between us.
Yeah.
Which makes for interesting.
Do you have any final thoughts? Recap it all.
All right. This movie, overall, I liked it. I think it's a very interesting introduction to what could potentially or probably be a new Batman franchise. Score was good. The music score, not the fucking rating score.
Yeah.
Action overall was good. Definitely some stuff can be improved. I want to see more of Robert in this role, actually being able to be Batman in this role.
Yeah.
Well, I think I just kind of want to see more Bruce, actually. This Bruce Wayne is interesting to me. I'd recommend watching this movie, honestly. I'm not going to say it's a masterpiece or anything like that, but there is stuff to like here.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of recency bias where people see this thing that they like and they're like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. I think this is going to be one of those movies that a year from now, people are going to like walk that back a little bit. I feel like I can compare it to like The Force Awakens. When we saw that for the first time, I don't know about you, I was like, this is incredible.
Oh, I had a smile on my face the whole time.
I was like, this is so crazy. And now I look back and I'm like,
and there's a few issues.
I'm like, it's very high octane and I'll give it that. But also they could have done so many different things. And I didn't like any of these creative decisions. And I'm like,
it's a more action-packed A New Hope.
Yeah, yeah.
Which isn't necessarily bad, but I wanted more.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things I like about this movie. At the end of the day, though, I think its story falls apart at the end. I think the third act it's not just like, oh, that third act is weak. I think it kind of falls apart at the end. I don't think the story resolves in a satisfying way. I think it just kind of fizzles out. And if they were trying to do Zodiac or Seven, those movies have really great, satisfying endings. So I kind of feel like they messed that up.
Okay.
I'm not one to say like the plot matters that much, but the plot is a tool to tell a good story.
Right.
So if the plot falls apart, I feel like it's just like the wheels falling off a car. You know what I mean? Like the whole thing just kind of comes to a screeching halt. So that's why like I don't want to sound like I've been overly negative, because it's not that I hate this movie. It's that the things that don't work for me are kind of big deals.
Okay.
And it's hard for me to kind of be like, oh, but I liked all this other stuff. I did like a bunch of other stuff, and we talked about it. But at the end of the day, it's just like a movie that I think it's kind of slow. It pats itself on the back a lot. It thinks it's really smart when it's questionable in places. And for me, it's like, what does this do to the DC universe? Like, I think you could do more stuff with Harley Quinn and Jared Leto if you wanted to. The Jared Leto Joker, like
right. And they still can.
That's what I'm saying. Does putting a Joker in this next movie prevent that from happening? I really hope DC realizes they can have their cake and eat it too in different ways. Keep doing Batman stuff on the other side, whether it be Michael Keaton, Ben Affleck, you recast, whatever. Again,
right.
I think they should have just recasted Ben Affleck and made a story set in the same universe. They didn't do that, and it's very frustrating. But if DC realizes the more content we push out, if it's good, people will like it. People will understand that it's set in different universes, and it's fine. Then I'm okay with it. But like, at the end of the day, like I said, I was honestly expecting to really like this movie, because even though I was going in a little sourpuss, it had a lot of hype and it had a lot of really good reviews, and I feel like I was let down anyway. So that's where I stand on this. I'll probably watch it when it hits HBO Max, but I'm not gonna run out and see it again. I don't know about you.
I want to see it again. Whether I wait to do that or not, I don't know yet.
Yeah. So thank you for listening, you guys. Thank you for subscribing on your podcast app. Thank you to that piano dude for our musical intro. Guys, make sure you leave a rating and review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Please tell a friend. And if you've told a friend, guys, thank you so much for telling a friend. You can find us on Instagram at Films from the Phantom Zone, and you can find us on Twitter if you want to argue with us at Films from PZ. We are on TikTok at Films from PZ. All these episodes are available on YouTube, if that's how you prefer listening to podcasts, on a browser, on a screen, while you work from home. That's on YouTube, Films from the Phantom Zone. All these episodes are streamed live on twitch.tv/Films from PZ. If you want to hang out with us, if you want to chat with us live while we record these episodes, it's not the nice polished product, but it is fun and interactive, and we talk to people on the chat all the time. If an episode's an hour and a half long, we recorded it for 3 hours, so
if not longer,
you get to hang out with us while we do all that. You can support the show on Patreon. films from the Phantom Zone. And if you want to hang out with us while we're not streaming, you can join our Discord server. That link is in the episode description. You can join our Discord and talk to us all week long between episodes. A lot of fun talk, banter, memes, stuff like that. Other than that, I think that's all we got, Birdo. We will see you soon. What do we say we're doing next? Jonah Hex?
Was it Jonah Hex?
It's Jonah Hex. Now
we have to
watch Jonah Hex.
Fuck.
It's on Netflix and HBO Max. So you can join us for that next episode, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Goodbye.